and of course,
Okay,
that
we're
NBA
back.
championship in
And
2019.
the chat
However, the
is
rebuilding
up
Raptors
and
went
running.
30-52 this past season, missing
Amazing.
the postseason for the third straight year. The move comes just a day after the end of the NBA draft and before free agency opens on Monday.
Masai and I spoke over a month ago, and he asked that if a change were to happen, that it was post-draft. And that made the most sense. 13 seasons is an extremely long time in a sports leadership role. As I said, change is inevitable. And what we really thought is, with the current status of our team and the foundation that, well, Masai has built, that this was the time to make the change. The roster is in place. All our players are signed at the luxury tax limit. The front office is renewed, including General Manager Bobby Webster.
Testing.
And we have great coaching
Audio
stability
seems to be working.
led by Darko.
Stream is going to start soon.
Since Masai came to Toronto in 2013, the Raptors have the fifth best record in the NBA, a .565 winning percentage, trailing only the Warriors, Clippers, Celtics, and Thunder. The Raptors making 8 playoff appearances under Masai, winning 8 playoff series. For more, we're pleased to be joined by Sportsnet.ca's Michael Grange. So much for a quiet start to the long weekend. Michael, I guess we all know that Masai's ultimate legacy will always be bringing that championship to Toronto. But why make this move now?
I think it was now, and let's get ahead of this. Masai Ujiri was heading into the last year of his contract. There wasn't, I don't think, a warm, fuzzy feeling between, let's say, the new controlling shareholders at MLSE and Masai Ujiri going back to his last contract negotiation. And then on top of that, for all the equity that Masai Ujiri's built with winning basketball teams, and of course, as you point out, winning a championship, the last 4 or 5 years haven't been all of that. And so I think, you could almost see the writing on the wall where there probably was a change coming. So if all parties can kind of understand that there might be a change coming, why wait? And I think that was the logic of it happening now, heading into the last year of his contract.
I know you were at Keith Pelly's news conference earlier in the day on Friday. What was
We're looking at round 2 through 7.
Well, I was surprised, I think, like a lot of people, that they're determined
Although
to find
I can't promise that I can stream the whole thing.
The existing
like I said yesterday, this is my birthday weekend, so
just almost like an acknowledgement that
I got plans in the afternoon, so I might not be able to stream all the rounds between 2 to 7, but I think we're going to get most of the rounds in.
A different industry entirely, and so I think there was a recognition that where maybe on the hockey side he's comfortable to really add value to Brad Treliving and the people in that organization. I think on the basketball side, it's like, maybe we do need another layer of expertise here, and let's invest and find the right person. Maybe it's Bobby Webster, but they're going to look far and wide.
Back to the diamond. Dodgers Royals just 4 pitches in. Shohei Ohtani getting all of this one. 429 feet into the fountain in KC. 29th homer of the year, most in the team's first 83 games in franchise history. Shohei finishing 2 for 3 with a homer, triple, and 2 RBIs. His Dodgers with a close
I like
one,
Shane Van
5-4.
Seggy.
Meanwhile, the Canadian women's
He's a
senior
good player.
soccer squad falling behind
I'm
early
really
to Costa Rica
crossing
in a
my
friendly on
fingers for the
Friday,
Leafs
but
to
came
get
storming back, scoring 4 unanswered
Daniil
in the second
Prokhorov.
half, earning a 4-1 win, improving to 18-0 all-time against Costa Rica. Next up for Canada, a showdown with the United States on Wednesday. Coming up right after the break, we hit the links and are reminded that golf is very, very hard.
I think
We'll
the
be back in
Dobson
just
deal is a
90
win-win
seconds.
for both teams. Montreal gets a high-end defender, a lot of upside on Dobson, even though he had a kind of like a down year last year on Long Island, but that could be just because they were such a bad team. But the New York Islanders did pretty good with their picks. So it looks like it's a win-win for both teams.
Only $3 all summer long.
After 18 years in the NHL,
My
The
knees and
Habs
feet
did pretty
have
good
just
too.
had enough. Kintex changed
Hold
everything.
on.
What they've shown me is
Who did the
custom
Habs
orthotics
pick?
and the proper footwear provide comfort, confidence, and
The
care
Habs
in
didn't
every
have a
step.
pick in
Now
the
I'm
first
pain-free
round.
and
No.
active. Check them out at kintech.net.
StructTube is your go-to destination to transform your house into a home. From modern furniture to stylish decor, explore a wide selection of pieces to create the perfect space you've always dreamed of.
Come on, Leafs. Daniil Prokhorov.
Gibby's Electronic Supermarket has the widest selection of audio and
That's
video
who we
equipment in
need,
all
baby.
of Canada. Calypso, Paradigm, Denon, Marantz, Samsung, Sony, LG, we've got everything!
Experience decking done differently with mineral-based Surestone technology from Decorators. This durable board is made from crushed stone and backed by
Hey
a
everybody.
50-year structural limited warranty.
Who's in the
numbers
stream
don't
today
lie.
that was
See
in
for
the stream
yourself
yesterday?
At Decorators.com.
Do we have any
Hi, I'm
returnees?
Brent from Arctic Spas, and at Arctic Spas, we make hot tubbing easy. Spa Boy, our revolutionary automated saltwater system, makes water care so easy. It's as simple as checking your phone. You deserve it.
Alexis,
ArcticSpas.com.
welcome back. Kelly,
Before we
welcome
go, a
back.
reminder, UFC 317
We had
goes Saturday.
4,000
You can order the
views
pay-per-view
yesterday
by
on the
scanning
stream,
QR
so
code on the
it's a
screen,
pretty good
or
number.
go to sportsnetplus.ca/UFC for all the details. Time now for the Central 60, brought to you by Canadian
Oh man, I
Blood
forgot my
Services.
glasses. I
Starting with a
can't
couple of
see
reminders that
without my
golf
glasses.
is
I'll be right
hard.
back.
Live Golf, Brooks Koepka doesn't like his tee shot, so responds with a club smash and then takes out his frustrations also on the tee block. And not to be outdone, on the PGA Tour, Stephen Jaeger also bad off the tee, and he comes up with the triple club smash. I mean, who hasn't lost their cool on the course before? Oh, 1, 2, there's the third one. Yeah, he was mad. Finally, on Wednesday, Young Hansen, the 16th overall pick in the NBA draft. On Friday, he was introduced to the Portland media and asked what he likes to do in his free time.
I sleep, all time sleep, and I like play PS5, and I like eat.
How many of you are saying, it sounds like a dream day, or at least a great way to spend this long weekend? Dreams coming true for 32 NHL prospects after Friday's first round of the draft, especially for Roger McQueen. The Saskatoon native hearing his name and then getting flown by the Anaheim Ducks to Disney by helicopter. Now that sounds like a fun weekend.
Sportsnet Central ticker odds are powered by Bet Rivers. Men's clothing provided by Jack Victor. Proudly made in Montreal since
Oh,
1913. Available now online and in stores.
Thank you for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. Thank you for remembering.
The Blue Jays with a barrage of hits. Never a dull moment with this baseball team.
Blue Jays, Red Sox, today on Sportsnet.
Auto Trader has the most cars.
I knew they had a lot of cars, but I didn't know they had the most cars.
I'm literally on every night because you never know when a deal can just like pop up.
Everything is there. You'll always find what you're looking for with Auto Trader. The answer is Auto Trader.
We are made in Canada. Homegrown, Canadian owned and operated. We're neighbors, friends, family. We're more than just made in Canada. We're a fabric of Canada.
Come on, Rover. Come on. Rover, I said go. Silly dog.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Okay, I need a bit of help, Gemini.
No problem. You could try using mayonnaise instead.
What about Greek yogurt?
If you don't have mayonnaise, then yeah, Greek yogurt is a great choice. The texture is similar, but you might want to add a little extra salt and pepper.
Ontario, come and stand on the shield of Canada. Stand in our clear blue waters of the south and deep waters of the north. Stand small under the wide open skies. Stand with those who inspire us. Most of all, stand proud. Explore every kilometer and discover it's a place like no other. Stand for the place we love.
Your spending changes month
So what's everyone's plans for today?
to
It
month.
looks like it's going to be a gorgeous Saturday, very sunny, very
The
warm.
new CIBC Adaptive MasterCard
Any
automatically
plans for the
adapts
long
month
weekend?
to month to month, earning you more points where you spend the most. Introducing CIBC
McQueen
Adaptive
could be.
MasterCard.
McQueen is pretty good. I don't know. I think personally it's pretty easy to replace Zegras. He wasn't very big. You know, he wasn't very strong. He was... I don't know if he's really built for the NHL. I think he needed some time to develop. I think they brought him into the NHL a little too quick.
It's not for the faint of heart.
But McQueen looks like a pretty good prospect.
City TV Plus. Start your free trial today.
Hockey Central signing season, Tuesday on Sportsnet.
Welcome to Los Angeles, downtown LA. The best in the world gets set to take center stage in the city that knows a thing or two about its stars.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
It's definitely one thing
So
this
apparently,
town and this game have in common. They're both
Ekblad
the perfect place for
has put his
stars to
house up for
shine.
sale in
And
Florida.
this is where it all starts in hockey. Now
Interesting,
is where
eh?
the stories of the greatest stars in the game begin. They can come with
Looks
every
like
bit of
Florida's
hype you can
priorities
summon,
are
like he did
Marchand
10
and
years ago.
Bennett.
The Edmonton Oilers would like to select Connor McDavid.
Or emerge as surprises no one ever saw coming.
It's down the next shot.
Generations of all-time greats who begin as just beacons of hope for franchises whose fates are transformed as soon as they skate onto the ice. That's how important this can be for teams like them. Because everyone remembers what we all thought when they were drafted, and everyone's seen what icons like them have meant for the story of this game.
The Florida Panthers win their second consecutive Stanley Cup.
This is the moment stars are born in hockey. This is the NHL Draft, live from Los Angeles.
It's time.
Welcome to the 2025 Upper Deck NHL Draft rounds 2 through 7. Los Angeles, where Hollywood scripts come to life and dreams come true. For these young hockey players, this is more than just a draft. It is a lifelong journey getting to this point. Once their name is called, the real journey begins and the story starts to be written. And what a story this was. Day one, Matthew Schaefer, the #1 overall pick, selected by the New York Islanders.
Rasmus Anderson is a good defenseman. He's a minute muncher. I don't know how much offense he really has in his game, but I think a lot of teams are lining up for him.
Off and running on day number 2 as we welcome you inside the Peacock Theater here just outside of Crypto.com Arena.
Why is that
the home
theater
of the
so
LA
empty?
Kings, and you can see
There's like nobody
fans
there.
and draftees about to file in here.
This
as we say
decentralized
hi,
draft
hello. Got the guys
is
here.
not all that
Tony,
great.
Sam, and Jason. I'm Jameson.
Very
Hope you're doing
NBA
well at
style.
home. Here we go. Another year, another day 2. Jason, I'll start with you. What's one of the biggest things you want to see? You're keeping your eye on here to start day 2.
Well, we had a couple of goaltenders go off the board in round 1. It was a little bit of a surprise for me, to be perfectly
Yeah, I
honest.
mean,
Now, when we
Ekblad
get
on the
into day
Leafs would
2,
be
you're going to see,
amazing
I
because
think, a run of
you got
goaltenders
Riley
here early. I'm
Ekblad,
talking in the first half of the second
McCabe
round. And
Tanev,
if you take a look at some of the guys
and
that are on the board,
Carlo
Semyon Frolov
and
from Russia.
OEL is your
Russia
third
is a
pair.
goalie factory, guys. They have
That's a
really nurtured their
ridiculous defense
goaltenders over
core.
there. They come
I
over
don't
here,
think
they
it gets
become
better
star
in the
players.
NHL than
Alexei
that.
Medvedev, keep an eye on that name there. He plays for the London Knights. He was the backup goaltender for the Memorial Cup champion London Knights. nights, didn't get into any playoff games. So people had to do their homework between games 1 and the end of the regular season to get them
games
get
with
positive
Montreal and
viewings on him. He's a
Toronto
real
are
good goaltender. The other
always
thing I'm looking
full
at,
of
though,
emotion.
is those small, skilled guys that
Between
really
Reeves
teams
and
seem to shy
Marchand,
away
if
from a little bit
Marchand
in the
ends up
first
on
round.
the
I'm
Leafs,
surprised that a couple of these names
those
didn't
games
come
are
off
going
the
to be
board. A
crazy.
couple of things I look for as a scout: when you're undersized, you got to be able to play with pace. You got to be able to think it better than anybody, and you have to be uber competitive. You really do. It's a hard game. You have to be in and out of traffic, and you have to push back and up. Those names that just popped up there, keep an eye on that. One of my favorite, I know it was for you too, Tony, when we ran into each other in Texas at the U18s. LJ Mooney from the U.S. national team. I love this kid. He competes super, super hard. I'm not the least bit shy about his size. He's not far off from Colin Potter in my mind, who went in the first round.
Sam, what's a theme you're keeping your eye on here for round 2?
Well, the Russian players are of great interest for me. You know, they continue to produce really good players, but with teams
Calgary,
having trouble
Edmonton
getting boots
too.
on the ground, there remains more mystery there. You really have to trust your scouts, your intel, in order to go down that road. But one guy who is here is Ivan Rapkin, who played in Muskegon, over a point per game, had 58 points last year in the MHL.
Daniil
A lot of people
Prokhorov.
expected
Come
him
on,
to go in
Daniil
the first round. His
Prokhorov.
combine did not go well. He looked out of shape. He ended up changing agents. He should be a guy that is of great interest for me today. Stanley Cup recency bias. You win with big, heavy players. Prokhorov at about 6'6" is one of those guys. Alexander Zhuravsky. Fuchs was all over him going back into November. Everyone started to direct their attention towards him. I thought he'd be a late first rounder. It didn't happen. So when it comes to the players that are playing in Russia, you really have to be confident with the intel you have. Fascinating to see where they all go
The
today.
Leafs have the last pick in the second round.
The American kids. Obviously, the National Development Team program has consistently produced NHL players. A lot of high-end guys. But this draft, there are 4 guys that intrigued me that I thought might sneak into the first round. Horkoff was the only one of the 4 that did. These 3 I really like as well. They all had good tournaments at the U18, which you guys were with me and cheered them on. So Murtagh, big, solid power forward. That I know an NHL team would love to have. We're talking about that big power size that you just mentioned, Sam, with Florida. William Moore, I think this is the guy that's a little bit deceptive down low at the net. I think he's got some really good hands down there. And Cole McKinney is a well-rounded two-way player that's hard to play against. So I think those 3 players in particular will be pretty fast off the draw today.
All right, we will keep our eye on that. We'll also keep our eye on the stage and the guys that have the best seat in the house today. We'll talk to them right now. EJ Raddick and Mike Kelly. Good morning, guys. EJ, did Mike Kelly get his chocolate croissant? I know he gets a little hangry if he doesn't have that pre-draft day 2.
I think he was well taken care of, Jameson.
It's in the rider.
He looks
It's in the rider.
He looks comfortable and ready to go, and he's got all of his paperwork here. You know, Mike, your group Sports Logic, you're contracted by a lot of NHL teams to help put together their draft lists and get a better picture of these players from all over different parts of the globe. How do you do it?
A lot more than me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We got a really talented group, but you know, in addition to the traditional scouting methods, which are still massively valuable, teams are taking in all sorts of different types of information and being able to acquire more data than they ever had in all leagues, really, like the Canadian Hockey League, the USHL, NCAA, the European leagues, just to gain that holistic view of who is this player and how can we best understand who this player is. So it's a part of the process across all 32 teams in the National Hockey League. And one player I want to focus on as we get set here for day number 2 is Malcolm Spence. I cannot believe he did not go in the first round. We were very high on him from a data standpoint, even higher than this NHL Network draft rank at 24th. His playmaking, his puck carrying, his scoring, so many impressive elements to his game. Played in Erie in the Ontario Hockey League. I see him as a middle 6, two-way winger, 25-goal guy. Like, I'm really, really high on Malcolm Spence. I'm going to say in advance, congratulations to the team that drafts Malcolm Spence in the second round. You just got great value. I don't think it's going to take long for his name to be off the board today.
Well, San Jose is on the clock, so maybe they'll go grab him. Let's get it over to Elliot Friedman. He's always keeping an eye on what's moving and shaking around the league. Elliot.
Right now, all eyes are on Florida, EJ. Yesterday, they took care of their most important business. They signed the Conn Smythe Trophy playoff MVP, Sam Bennett, to an 8x8 extension. We're also watching, obviously, for Brad Marchand and Aaron Ekblad. They met with Marchand this week. They made their pitch. We're awaiting an answer on him. Also, Ekblad, that's a situation where it seemed just big picture-wise is a little bit tougher for them to get done because what they might be willing to do and what Ekblad could get on the open market after a spectacular playoff playoffs, it's a bigger divide. So we're watching that situation to see how it develops over the next 24 to 48 hours. You also wonder what didn't happen at the draft on day one that could have. The Islanders got Matthew Schaefer #1. They traded for Montreal's 2 picks, 16 and 17. They offered them to Nashville at 5, Philly at 6, Boston at 7. All those teams decided to keep their picks until Boston took James Higgins. But most people believe, who know the draft better than me, that the Islanders did better than expected with what they ended up at 16 and 17. Jameson?
All right, Elliot, great stuff. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here from the Peacock Theater in LA.
St.
When we
Louis
come
is
back,
willing to
day
trade
2,
Kyrou,
getting
but
underway officially, and San Jose.
I mean, it has to
the
be a
Sharks
pretty significant
will
offer
officially
for
be
them
on
to
the
trade
clock.
Kyrou.
Introducing the first superhero-inspired hockey trading card set, the 2025 DC Fanimation Crossover. Collect hockey players sporting uniforms inspired by DC superheroes exclusively on UpperDeckEPAC.com. Set up your free account today and add to your collection.
Now is your chance to share, trade, collect, and complete quests with hockey fans around the world and get rewarded when you play. Start your NHL video collection today.
Toyota takes you there. Don't miss out. Get in and go at your local Toyota dealer today.
Hey, it's your gut instinct. Always one step ahead. I know what's up and who's up. So next time the game's on and it feels game-changing, bet your way with Betway.
Okay, I need a bit of help, Gemini.
No problem. You could try using mayonnaise instead.
What about Greek yogurt?
If you don't have mayonnaise, then yeah, Greek yogurt is a great choice. The texture is similar, but you might want to add a little extra salt and pepper.
You're done.
It's ending, but we've got Twizzlers left.
He's getting away!
Twizzlers, keep the fun going. Another season? Let's go!
Yeah, I mean,
Esso has always
especially with the
Canada's
second
passion
round,
for
if
hockey.
there are
In
players available that you
1936, we
really like,
sponsored the first NHL
or
radio
teams
broadcast,
really
and
like,
the 3 stars of the game were
they're
invented
willing to
based on the
trade
3 stars in our
third
logo.
and fourth
By
rounders to get
1952,
higher up into
sponsorship
the second
expanded
round.
to
I mean,
TV. Today, as the
if
official
you
fuel
look
of the
at what the
NHL,
value
Esso
of later
proudly supports all
picks
7
are
Canadian
in
teams.
terms of players making the
Esso,
NHL,
dedicated to Canada's game for over 80 years.
it's a no-brainer if you really love a player.
Today, let's paint with Bear. Oh, you're already done.
Yeah, we painted earlier. Now we're
Guys, in yesterday's stream we had over
Not us. We did the
4,000
research. Bear is
views,
the most trusted paint
but
brand.
we only had like
It's
60
no-brainer.
likes.
Everybody should use Bear.
Let's
It
do
really
better today.
transformed
Come
the
on.
space.
Yeah, it's Bear Adirondack.
Drop a like
Well, I guess I'm
and
not really
subscribe.
needed
I
here today.
appreciate it. You guys keep me going.
No, he's gone.
I'm still here. Do your research and get great quality paint at an everyday low price. Only at the Home Depot.
If you are not a subscriber to Rogers or TELUS cable television services, you do not have access to HGTV, Food Network, Discovery Network, or ID. This is because your TV service
I don't think
provider
they're going
dropped
to
these
trade
premium
Matheson.
brands. If you want these TV brands back, contact your
they
TV provider
really
and
like
get what you
Matheson
paid for.
in Montreal, but
Connor McDavid.
anything's
Hard to
possible,
believe
really.
it's been 10 years. Feels like it wasn't that long ago, but obviously a special night, you know, with your family to get drafted to the NHL. You know, realize that you're gonna live your dream. You know, but the draft is kind of only where it starts. You know, and that's when the work really goes into it. And 10 years later, here we are. It's taken, you know, everything. You know, from the guys that have been here. It's been, you know, learning every year.
2015, a monumental draft, and it's funny, you hear Connor McDavid saying, yeah, it doesn't feel that long ago, but then you look at how young he looks, and then you look at in the mirror today and how old we look, and you're like, my goodness, time flies by. But what a legendary draft that was. It was Connor McDavid, first overall.
Kirill
Jack Eichel,
Kaprizov was a
pick,
fifth-round pick.
On day 2, trust me, you can still find some diamonds in the rough. Case in point right here, Sebastian Aho was a second-round pick, as was Rope Hintz. After that, Anthony Cirelli in round number 3, Aiden Hill, Kirill Kaprizov, you kidding me? Round number 5, Connor Garland also in round number 5. So, Sammy, you look back on the 2020 that's
well,
got to be one of
least
the best
between the second and the between rounds 2 to 7 have 6 picks. So I don't think they're going to try to
I remember that year because Mitch Marner
acquire
had the
picks, but I
title
think
in the Ontario Hockey League, and we were broadcasting a game in
they're trying to offload some salary. I think they're trying to move Yarncrook and David Kemp.
And of course, Dylan Strome a little bit
maybe
late to
Kemp
arrive
gets
to the
you
scene, but what an unbelievable
fourth
player
or a
he is,
fifth,
just
and
past
Yarncrook
Ovi.
gets you
And
maybe
of
a
course, we
third
know
or
what
a
Mitch
fourth.
Marner is doing,
So it's possible they offload some salary and
Jason,
add a
we can
couple
always
of
go
picks.
back and redraft 10 years from now of what this draft may look like. And it's hard to project, right? It's the toughest job in the world to figure out who those fifth-round superstars are going to be 10 years from now.
For Kevin
yeah,
Ball.
no question. And I look at Connor Garland's name come up there. I remember vividly scouting him throughout the Quebec League there, in Moncton especially. He didn't like his zone at all, Tony. Like, he had a rash every time he had to come in the defensive zone to make a play defensively. And it held him back because you looked at his offensive pedigree, but the rest of the dedication wasn't there. Obviously, he's figured it out, just signed a nice little contract extension there in Vancouver. So you look back, and it's interesting to see how players evolve. They change. They understand at the pro level how they got to adjust.
All right, should be a fun day, too. Always is. So here we go. Without further ado, let's send it down to the stage. The Deputy Commissioner of the National Hockey League, Bill Daly, to officially open up day number 2 of the NHL entry draft.
Good morning, Los Angeles. Welcome to day 2 of the 2025 NHL draft, and welcome in particular to all the people in the audience who will be members of the NHL family after today. The first pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL draft belongs to the San Jose Sharks. San Jose, you're on the clock.
Okay, so San Jose officially on the clock here to open up round number 2. Jason, take us through this. If you're the Sharks, hey, you've done all your prep at this point, right? You know exactly who you're taking here with this first pick in round 2.
San Jose Sharks, let's go teal.
Yes, I have been at a draft, though. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus where a timeout was called with the first pick on the second day. So, yes, I have. Yes, I have. Listen, the San Jose Sharks are a team on the rise, fellas. They are. They have an embarrassment of riches right now in their prospect pool. Obviously, adding what they added yesterday in Michael Misa, and then you look at Will Smith, and on the back end they have players at every position, and uniquely they drafted Ravensburger yesterday, who's a right catching goaltender, and they got Askarov there. So they might be one of the few NHL teams someday that have 2 right catching goaltenders in their lineup, which is an anomaly. They're on the rise, though, JMO.
Yeah. What do you make of the Michael Misa to San Jose and how they fit in with some of the young talent, the up-and-coming core that they have there in Celebrini and Will Smith?
The vision is really clear, okay? And it starts with Celebrini, and I think it continues on from there.
The first pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL draft, the 33rd overall pick, the San Jose Sharks have selected Simon Wong from Oshawa of the Ontario Hockey League.
Simon Wong.
All right, so Simon Wong right there, a defenseman from the OJHL. Mike, born in Beijing, introduced to hockey at the age of 4. Only 2 Chinese-born players have ever been drafted. Right there, a defenseman from the OJHL. Mike, born in Beijing, introduced to hockey at the age of 4. Only 2 Chinese-born players have ever been drafted.
Absolutely. Comes over to Canada when he's 12 years old to advance his hockey career, and the San Jose Sharks are swinging for the fences right out of the gate here on day number 2. You take a look at our Sportlogic draft rank. We had him second rounder as well, but physical player, really nice pick for San Jose.
Oh, here we go. Trade alert already.
Trade to announce. The Carolina Hurricanes trade picks number 34 and 189 in the 2025 NHL draft to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for picks number 41 and 49 in the 2025 NHL draft.
Oof,
that means Montreal is now on the clock.
All right, so the Habs now on the clock.
Montreal's on the clock.
Pick in round number 2. Mike Kelly, death taxes in Carolina, either taking timeouts or trading back, right?
It's what they do. It's what they do. Absolutely. Well, to get back to Simon Wong for a second here. Again, 6'6". This guy's raw, right? He comes over to Canada when he's 12, like we talk about. Got a little bit of a taste in the OHL with Oshawa. You look at the physicality and Alex Vlasic being a data comparable for him. We're talking about a big defenseman. This is, to me, the biggest project in the draft, though. If this guy can hit a ceiling, I mean, you're talking about a very unique unicorn type of player in the NHL, but there's a lot of work to do.
6'6".
It's almost impossible to find players that skate as well
Montreal's
as he does
pick
at
is
his
now
size.
in.
That is what is so appealing.
With the second pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens have selected Alexander Zarovsky, a right wing from UFA junior team in Russia.
All right, so Alexander Zarovsky, a winger from UFA Junior in the MHL. Jason, unranked by Central Scouting at midseason, ended up 5th among all international skaters. What a jump.
Yeah, there's a backstory here. Nick Bobrov, the the associate director of amateur scouting with the Montreal Canadiens. He has
Montreal's going for the Russians.
And he's
the Russians are taking over.
Pick. Let me tell you, he's 6 foot. He's over 6'1" and a bit, but he is an elite offensive talent. When this kid puts on weight,
this kid is 6'1", 160 pounds.
He is an elite, another layer of Russian that they clearly are not concerned about when you start talking about, are they going to arrive?
Nashville has made their selection with the third pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft. The Nashville Predators have selected Jacob Rumbach from Lincoln of the United States Hockey League.
All right, so Jacob Rumbach.
6'6", left-handed defenseman. He's already 209 pounds.
USHL gets a
Whoa.
pick in here from the Lincoln Stars. He is
Morgan, yes, let's go. Go, Leafs, go.
He closes fast. He is pretty simple, smart puck mover. But one of the things that I love is when you talk to other players in the USHL and you ask
Philadelphia's on the clock.
Against. I got his name from 4 or 5 of the kids, and to hear that and know that he makes the other team be aware when he's on the ice is really important. So I think it's a really good pick earlier in the second round.
Committed to the University of Minnesota.
Bobby Motzko. Here he comes.
There you go. You can see from Blaine, Minnesota right there. His numbers with Lincoln last season, 57 games, 3 goals, 15 helpers. I love the scout speak. Physical defender with
I like the quick play picks. Let's go. Let's go, Philadelphia. Let's go.
And size, Gus.
You know, one thing that we talked about with this draft class in our combine interviews, and I think it speaks to the rest of the class, is the fact that these guys are very self-aware of what they are. You don't always get that. Well, you might get a third-line guy.
Sorry, Trev.
Says, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to be a first."
Nashville did not take Fiddler.
This draft class seemingly had a number of guys who knew exactly what they are, and that self-identity is hugely important for me. So you get a guy like Rombach. He's not going to go in and he's not going to be a burner on the point side of games. But when you look at his ability to defend, to be mean, to be nasty, and to work around the net front to keep that clear and play a more simple game in terms of moving pucks, you find a good forward group for him to play with, and all of a sudden that player becomes exponentially more effective, especially because he knows who he is and what he's going to be.
One thing I would just add to that real quickly, guys, is that what you're going to see here is a trend. For me, when I'm list building, it's always best available, and I keep trending out that way. This draft class, you're splitting hairs on skill sets to a large degree, so you're going to see guys that are going to fit a player type that these organizations are going to want to build around to insulate the top half of their lineups.
All right, interesting stuff.
The Ottawa Senators.
What do you think of the pace so far? On par with what you expected?
I think it's been good, but I want to go back to his point about self-identifying.
The Ottawa Senators made a trade.
The great players and the players that excel and live up to their potential are the ones that can do that, especially early. And Rombach is certainly one of those players, along with a lot of the other players that we're going to be talking about today. The U.S. players that I talked about, Cole McKinney is one of those guys. He knows he's a checking center. He knows he has to block shots. He knows he has to be the best penalty killer. He knows he's got to win his face-off. And when guys can understand that at an early age, they don't want to be on the first power play. They don't think that they can beat out
the #1 center on the NHL team that's going to draft him, and they find that role and do it.
When you were head coach at University of Wisconsin, how many of those, give me a percentage of the kids that would come in and really know what their game was like at that age?
Yeah, and part of that is the coach's responsibility early on when you're in that recruiting phase of identifying them and giving them that tool to
trade Barry Trotz for future considerations.
Their thinking as they prepare to get ready for college and the draft and their pro career.
You might think I'm crazy, but I think the money has
The
something
two
to
guys
do with it,
I want to see the Leafs pick. One is
$950,000 average annual salary.
Daniil Prokhorov.
Coming out of the draft, went 7th overall, had no offensive
Daniil
flair to his game.
Prokhorov is a
He has
6'6",
really
218-pound right
he's
winger.
got to be a defender. He's got to be a puck
Russian,
mover. He has to play a simple
very
game.
offensively
That's led to a guy
talented.
who maybe,
And the other one is Carter Amico, 6'5", 234-pound right-handed defenseman.
These guys are playing well late into their careers. Why? Because they've changed their identity a little bit, and they understand that that is a needed part of every team. Those guys are making big money for being guys that aren't your top-of-the-lineup type guys.
And add the Florida Panthers to be the model for players' understanding. If I go to Florida, I'm going to accept the role and I'm going to play it to my best, and that's how I'm going to play. That's how I'm going to win. And that's how
Come
I'm
on,
going to make
Philadelphia.
my money. So,
And I'm going to keep more of my money
Why are you
too.
taking so long, man?
A touchy subject. A
Why are you
touchy
taking
subject.
so long,
As we
Philadelphia?
wait here with the Flyers officially on the clock in round #2. Their time has come to an end here, so maybe something percolating behind the scenes.
I'll double down on what Tony was saying there, and this is fascinating to me. I was just listening to how you describe that when you're recruiting kids, because for me as a scout, when I go into Wisco and I watch Tony's teams, and if I'm looking at a player, I want to know if he came in as a recruit to be a top 6 guy, but he's made the adjustment. Now he's got a B game. Now he's evolving, right? And he's telling me something that he's going to be flexible enough to move up and down the lineup. It's really important as they evolve. It's a world game. It's hard. You have to evolve.
And some of the issue is the agents and the outside influence telling the kids, hey, you're really somebody else. You should be playing more, and you're better than you're being shown at whatever school you're at or whatever team you're on. So there's a little bit of balance that you got to understand. There's noise coming from the outside to all these kids as well.
Too many cooks in the kitchen at times. All right, so while we wait,
You're welcome, bro.
Flyers
drop a like and a subscribe if you like the feed.
#2. Inside the beautiful Peacock Theater here in Los Angeles.
I think Zorowski might have been their guy. That's why we're hanging around here for a second.
Okay. Well, let's go talk to somebody. Our Elliot Freeman is downstairs. That's not Elliot, but Elliot is somewhere. Elliot, where are you?
That guy's better looking than me. I would say.
So it looks like Philadelphia is trading their pick to
Jordan
Seattle.
Spence, the young Kings defenseman, who kind of, I don't know
That's
if he
why
asked
this is
for a
taking
trade,
so
but they
long.
kind of realized that the fit wasn't going to be there on the LA blue line. He's going to the Ottawa Senators for the 67th pick this year and a 6th rounder next year. I believe that's the Colorado pick that Ottawa owns is going to LA. So Jordan Spence gets a fresh start on the Ottawa blue line.
All right, Elliot, thank you very much. So Jordan Spence to Ottawa, and here we go. The trade alerts to Bill Daly at the stage.
As you may have suspected, we have a trade to announce. The Philadelphia Flyers have traded draft picks number 36 and 68 in the 2025 NHL draft to the Seattle Kraken in exchange for picks number 38 and number 57 in the 2025 NHL draft. That means the Seattle Kraken are now on the clock.
All right, so that is what we're
Seattle
waiting on.
Kraken
So the
around
Flyers
the
trading
clock.
back, trading picks 36 and 68 to Seattle. Seattle now on the clock here in round #2, exchanging picks 38 and 57.
Yeah, Books, I got something for you since you've been at lots of draft tables. When that happens, is that you get to that pick and you realize, geez, the guy we wanted in this spot isn't here, so let's move this pick and accumulate more picks later on? Or what goes into thinking of trades like this?
Yeah, so they have a run of guys on their list right now. I'll call it even 10 deep here, Tony. And one of these guys, this is what's happened to me in the past.
Seattle has made their selection.
One pick ahead. We'll go to the pick here
With the
first.
4th pick in the 2nd round, the Seattle Kraken have chosen Blake Fiddler from Edmonton in the Western Hockey League.
All right,
Blake
so Blake
Fiddler
going to the
finally
Seattle
off
Kraken at pick number 36,
the board.
defenseman out of the WHL Edmonton. Tony, we know that name. Dad Vern played 877 career NHL games.
The Washington
Vernon,
Capitals are now
5'11", the son a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, we saw Vern a second
Washington Capitals on the
hug there. But Blake Fiddler is
clock.
a tough kid. He is one that was a dual citizen. He played for
Let's
Team
go. Quick
Canada
picks. Let's go.
U17s
Quick
and jumped
picks.
over and played for Team USA and the U18s this year. I thought, for me, that was the biggest surprise on the U.S. team. I didn't know him. But they brought him in, and all of a sudden he's on the ice more than any other defender. And I watched him, and I said, okay, I know why he's over there, because he's reliable. Every shift, he's in position. He does things simple. He can get pucks through to the net. He's not one of those fancy guys that's going to dangle you, but he knows his game, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
He is a defenseman
to trade up and take
great upside.
Fiddler
his
is
dad
a really
was a feisty little son of a gun that got 800
really
plus
good
games
pick.
in our league. So I'm sure he's
6'5", 200
if you
pounds.
take the Seattle bend, okay, they were picking 8th overall. A lot
That's
of people
worth
had Raddy
trading up
Murka
for.
going there because he plays in Seattle. Maybe a little bit.
What's up, Morgan? Morgan, Borborgen,
but I want to continue on
V5,
Seattle
NHL draft
program and what they're doing.
Capitals select Milton Gastrin from Modo.
Milton
The
Gastrin.
Swedish Junior League.
Milton Gastrin,
Okay, yeah, okay.
is center from Modo. The
He
Swedish
didn't go
Junior Hockey
too
League.
much
Jason
higher than he was
Gastrin had a
supposed to go.
ridiculous
6'1"
8-point game
center.
against Switzerland at the 2024 Helenka Gretzky Cup.
Ross Mahoney for
The next order of selection belongs to the Philadelphia
This guy
Flyers.
is a two-way forward,
The
plays the game the
Philadelphia
right way in all
Flyers
three
are on
zones,
the
extends
clock.
plays for his line mates, leader. Middle of the lineup guy, glue guy that makes your team better. I had this guy going right at the end of the first round.
Both of us.
I really like him. I really like everything that he does. And there's really no holes in his game, guys. He'll lean on people. He can kill penalties. Boy, oh boy, what a great pick. Washington's on a heater the last few years, and this is going to add to it.
Oh, yeah, and they overcooked their guys. I just want to get back quickly to Seattle, okay? So they didn't take Murka there. They took O'Brien, okay? Really like the forward with great skill. They needed to get a defenseman in this draft. And so they move up, they get Fiddler, they identify a 6'4", 205-pound right shot guy who can really skate. And so Seattle gets that same sort of bend with a little bit less risk here in round 2.
With the 6th pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Philadelphia Flyers select Carter Amico.
Carter,
From the
oh
US
no!
National Team Development
That's the guy I
Program
wanted
in
the
the
Leafs to
USHL.
take. Come
All right, Tony, this
on.
is your guy, Carter Amico. Only one of
He
4
was supposed
players
to go
from Maine
later
the
in
past
the
25
draft.
years to
Dang
be
it.
chosen for the U.S.
I
development
just
program.
said Carter Amigo. Did I not say the Leafs? I want Carter Amigo or Daniil Prokhorov?
He had a knee injury earlier
And these guys
so he
picked
missed most of the
Amigo.
season.
Come on.
But for a big
Come
guy,
on,
he can get
man.
around the ice very well. Coming off of that knee surgery, obviously he's looking good and back in position where he'll be ready for development camp as he injured. But very smooth skater for a big guy. He's pretty good hand, moves the pucks pretty simple. But is he nasty, and can he deliver that big hit? So I think this fits into
Brad Marchand as lead.
Did Philly get
I
him?
like it.
Philly got him.
Philly got him.
Yeah.
That seems to fit the
I
mold.
like
That's the
it.
mold right now, yes.
Yeah, and they're trying to get back to the old
Brings a
Flyers
lot of
days, right?
character.
Training with some of the UFC
Brings
guys
a
this
lot of
summer. Did you
grit,
see that
a lot of
recently?
leadership.
Who's that? They hired a UFC fighter to
Can't go
kinda
wrong
train
with
some of the
having,
guys in the
but I
offseason.
wouldn't pay more than $8 million for it. If he wants nine
And
and a
guess what's
half,
back? Another
no
trade.
thank
Here we
you.
go.
All
We have
right,
another
another
trade
trade.
to announce. The Buffalo Sabres have traded pick number 39 in the 2025 NHL Draft and Connor Clifton to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Connor Timmins and Isaac Beliveau. Pittsburgh is now on the clock.
For real, Pittsburgh?
All right, so there you go.
Connor
The
Clifton and a
Buffalo
pick.
Sabres trading that pick away. So pick 39 as well as Connor Clifton to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for another draft pick and Connor Timmins. What do we make of that? See,
Connor
Buffalo
Timmins,
here
the
early in round
ex-Leaf.
number 2.
Buffalo's going to have about 100 defensemen. You just think about Samuelson and Power and Dahlin and what they did yesterday. Another one added
can't
here
believe
today.
Philadelphia
So clearly
picked
they've
Carter
identified
Amico.
that they want some
I
depth
just
on
did
the
a
back
draft
end.
profile
But you
on
look
this
at the
guy.
Pittsburgh Penguins, always willing to wheel and deal here. And I think because there were so many
Pittsburgh
players
Penguins on the
after
clock.
20 that extended to a list of maybe 50, people are sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I had this guy in the
Pittsburgh has
first
made their
round.
selection.
And now they get a
With
chance
the
to do it in round
7th
2.
pick in the second round, the Pittsburgh Penguins have selected Peyton Kettles from Swift Current in the Western Hockey League.
They traded up to get Peyton
All right, so
Kettles?
Peyton Kettles, a defenseman out of the WHL. Jason,
6'5",
Kyle was
right-handed
selected in the
D-man.
7th
Okay.
round, all the way back in 1990 by the Nashville Predators.
It's really interesting. So this is an example of
Philadelphia
your list
Flyers
is starting to
back
fall,
on the
and we
clock.
better
It's
get
like
our guy.
every other
Peyton
pick,
Kettles is a
Philadelphia
big,
Flyers.
big
Philadelphia
body.
Flyers. Come on.
I don't know what's going on, fellas, but there's a lot of size. Hey, there's a lot of size in this draft class. Third pairing, he's almost a 7th D. He really is, okay? But he takes away time and space with his length and his stature. He'll block shots, very limited offensively, but he's got a player type, and he plays to that type. He was on Team Canada here in the spring at the U18s, and you know he's just a steady guy. There's no flash and dash here. He just does his job, and the coaches aren't going to have to worry about that.
Folks, what are we seeing here, guys? Okay, let's go back to last year, right? 6'5" or taller, drafted since 2000. 27 of them last year. That is by far the most. What are we seeing here? Wang, Rombach, Fiddler, a lot of big guys again.
Flyers have selected Jack Murtaugh.
Jack Murtaugh.
Program in the USHL.
Yeah, he's a pretty good pick. 6'1" center.
Tony, Jack Murtaugh, a winger from the NTDP, scored a goal in both games of the 2024 CHL USA Prospects Challenge. He is committed to Boston University.
Carolina's on the
that's
clock.
That power forward type of guy that we're kind of talking about. You talked about the size, and right now we're talking about a power forward, not quite that 6'6" range, just over 6 feet, but he's heading to BU. He's a big winger that can get down and crash the net and drive.
I think the NHL in general would be a lot more exciting and fun to watch.
Pretty good.
Brad
You can see him here.
Marchand,
One-hand fence off his defender. And so, yeah, big body that takes the puck to the net really hard. I think he knows that part of the game. The part of the game I'd like to see him a little bit more willing to stand in front of the net for screens and tips. And it's not bad, but I think there's a room for improvement there, so I think he's got a big upside.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think he should stop in that area a little bit more instead of swinging out, but I'll tell you this. Braden Coots went in the first round of the Vancouver Canucks. There's not a massive drop-off to Jack Murtaugh. This is a fantastic
John Gibson has been traded to the Detroit Red Wings from Anaheim. Boom, Blockbuster.
With these youngsters.
Boom, Blockbuster, right at the beginning of the second round. John Gibson has been traded to the Detroit Red Wings.
That part of the game, I think, is well in place. And it's nice to have that B game, because if the offensive side doesn't work out, where the net front doesn't get to where you want it to go, you know he's going to be a guy that you can throw out there and really trust in many situations.
Carolina has made their selection. With the 9th pick in the second round, the Carolina Hurricanes have selected Semyon Frolov from Spartak.
Semyon Frolov, one of the Russians.
All right, Semyon Frolov, a goaltender
New York Islanders
from Togliatti in the MHL. Jason Frolov's current contract in Russia runs through the 2026-27 season.
Yeah, not worried about that. It's okay. He's going to be on the clock a little longer over there. Goaltenders take longer to develop. He is a bigger body compared to the other goaltender. Well, Ravensburger is a bigger body as well. But for Russians here, this guy, he's wiry, he's athletic, and
John Gibson has been traded to the Detroit Red Wings for Peter Mrazek and 2 picks.
A couple of different times, and then they land on a goaltender. But having said that, watch for that run of goaltenders that we were talking about in the pregame. This might start getting a little more active now that you had the big D going off, role players. Now they might get into some goaltenders here, fellas.
All right, the Islanders now officially on the clock. What a day one they had, huh? Those 3 first-round picks, my goodness.
That's what
There were so many Islander fans in the lobby last night, and they were over the moon with how day one went under Matthew Darche.
Yeah, and Schaefer jersey.
John Gibson to Detroit for Peter Mrazek and 2 picks.
Emotion and really kind of started the draft off in the way that I think hockey wants to be seen as a caring, we're all in the hockey family together, and certainly with what he's gone through, I think we've all felt a little bit of pain and grieved with him along the way, and to see how he handled himself and see him being the #1 pick was pretty special for a lot of us to watch.
I cried, guys, like I did. You know, I've come to know Matthew here over the last few months, an unbelievable young man. His dad, Todd, brother Johnny, played in the OHL, so that I shed a tear. There's no question about that. In the grander scheme, when you're talking about the Islanders, drafting character through the roof with those 3 picks yesterday.
Selection in the second round, the New York Islanders select Daniel Prokhorov from Dynamo
Oh my
St. Petersburg, Russian Junior League.
There goes
All right,
Daniil
so Daniil
Prokhorov
going to the New York
and
Islanders.
Carter
He's a winger
Amical,
out
the
of
two
Dynamo
guys I
St.
wanted the
Petersburg,
Leafs
the
to draft in the
NHL.
second
Jason
round,
finished the season
and
with
they're
a
both
flourish. How
gone.
about this? 10 goals in his final 12
Damn
regular
it.
season games.
New York Rangers.
Yeah, here we go. These are the types of, I don't want to
God
call it risk,
dang
but it
it.
is a little bit of risk. Like, they can take these types
Why are
of
these
picks
people
right now.
doing
He's
this
here,
to
which
me
is
right now,
fascinating,
bro?
guys, in the second. That means he's going to go to development camp. That's a big deal. That means that he is dialed in. I do believe,
The names
despite
on my
the
list
offense
are
that he
getting
produced here at the
checked
end of the year,
off.
he planes out to be more of a bottom six guy, and that's fine. If you know the secondary offense is there, go for it.
All right, you know what that noise means. Trailer,
Another
here we
trade.
go.
I think they're going to announce the John
right?
Gibson trade now.
We have a trade to announce. The Los Angeles Kings trade Jordan Spence to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for pick number 67 in the 2025 NHL Draft and Colorado's 6th round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft, which had been previously acquired by Ottawa.
All right, so Jordan Spence, don't unpack that luggage just yet. He is on the move
New York
and
Rangers
moving fast.
selection is in.
For more news around the NHL, let's go downstairs to our insider, Elliot Friedman. Elliot, what more can you tell us about another big deal?
Yes, so there's another one coming. John Gibson and the Anaheim Ducks. It seems his name has been in trade rumors forever. That's finally coming to an end. He's being traded to the Detroit Red Wings. In exchange, don't know the full picture yet, Peter Mrazek is going to the Ducks and 2 picks. I don't think they're in this draft. I think they're in future drafts. So that's what the deal looks like. Mrazek and 2 picks for John Gibson. By the way, that Spence deal with LA and Ottawa, one thing we should also note, it gives the Kings a bit more roster flexibility, frees up $1.5 million. So the Kings obviously have things they want to do with that cash, guys.
All right, Elliot, thank you very much. So there you go. John Gibson finally on the move, it sounds like, to the Detroit Red Wings in exchange. Peter Mrazek, a couple other pieces. We talked about Jordan Spence, part of the deal earlier. Malcolm Spence just got drafted. Jason, a winger out of Erie in the OHL. At the 2023 Helenka Gretzky Cup, he scored the golden goal for Canada in the gold medal game against Czechia.
Well, Cal's talked about it in the pregame and
goes
illustrated from
Malcolm
a sport
Spence.
logic perspective how much value this player has. I'm going to give you the yin to the yang here. So his best shifts and everything that Cal's projected there,
Detroit's on the clock.
bang on. There's absolutely no question. He plays fast. He's got size. He's got tenacity. He can create turnovers on the penalty kill and actually tucks some goals in when the team's a man short. Here's the thing, boys. I watched him live 6 times. 2 out of those 6 times, his A game wasn't present and his B game fell off for me. And that, to me, is why an NHL franchise takes a look and says, it's hard every day. And we need you to be better on your B game on your worst days. And that's potentially why here. But his best shift is top 6 capable. But the rest of it, it's just going to have to come.
It's fascinating for me now. He's going to take his act to the University of Michigan and see what happens there under Brandon Naurato and see if he can further his development there after committing and leaving the Erie Otters. But his skill pedigree goes all the way back to minor hockey. I mean, this is a guy who played with Michael Misa, and those two were 1 and 2 at that point in their careers. Now, Spence, with a tongue issue earlier, forced him to lose some weight. He had trouble gaining that weight back. Now here he is. At this point in the draft, I'd be ecstatic to get a player like that here. But I agree with Books. I watched him a couple of times live this year with some other scouts, and same thing.
Detroit
We need to see a more consistent effort
the
from
12th pick
Spence.
in the 2nd round, the Detroit Red Wings select Eddie Genborg from Linköping in the Swedish League.
All right, Books, how about Eddie Yenborg, a winger from Linköping Junior in the Swedish Junior League.
Next order of selection
Yenborg,
belongs to
a
the
goaltender up until the age of 12, then made the transition. Huge Henrik Lundqvist fan.
Yeah, this kid, he plays a heavy style as well. He's got an exceptional release, fellas. So when he gets above the play in the offensive zone and there's a turnover, he's going bar down. Really good. You're going to see some highlights here. He's always around the net. He's always creating havoc. His boots have got to come a little bit. I'm talking small area boots. So when he comes out to challenge as a winger to defend against a defenseman, the opponent, if he challenges too quick, Tony, guys can spin, you know, and they get off him. So, you know, he just needs to take better routes is what I would say, but I love his power. Heavy shot, competitive. Great interview at the Combine.
Yes,
by the way.
yeah, I was
Great
about to bring that up. Yeah. And he very self-aware of what he is, no question.
Anaheim has made their selection. With the 13th pick in the 2nd round, the Anaheim Ducks select Eric Nilsson from Djurgården in the Swedish Junior League.
All right, Mike Kelly,
Utah
Eric
Mammoth
Nielsen
on the clock.
of Djurgården Junior in the Swedish Junior League. Denmark has played 521 career NHL games with Florida and Calgary.
Yeah, born in Calgary. I think he might be a little bit of a hidden gem here. We had him ranked 38th overall, so he goes in that range anyways. Just over a point a game guy with Djurgården in the Junior League, like you mentioned.
Sorry, Jordan, I didn't see your comment. You're having trouble viewing the stream?
Forwards, and I don't think he gets enough credit for his puck moving as well. Good playmaker. He was top 10 among all players in this draft in carrying the puck end to end from the defensive zone into the offensive zone. Doing that through the neutral zone is a skill any NHL team alike. He's got some kind of Philip Deneau defensive qualities to him, which is great. I think if his offensive side grows, you know, Robert Thomas could be a comparable. So I like the swing here on Eric Nielsen, guys.
Really cool to see. Who shook his hand there? Anton Frundell. Went 3rd overall. He's back here supporting his teammates today. I just love that, and Chicago's going to be pretty happy with that type of character player. Really neat to see, and I hope there's been some other guys that got picked yesterday to come out and support their teammates as well.
Very cool. I know a lot of those first-round guys are hanging around for the weekend concert coming up tonight, too. So.
Oh, out in the Swedes.
Good
no,
friends.
No, but the weekend with the Swedes, a hit. Every guy we talked to, Books? Every single Swedish player, oh, the weekend's coming. We've got to find a way to get some tickets. So they're hanging around for the show.
Avicii, then the weekend. That's for the Swedes right there.
Avicii.
Right.
Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Books is dialed in.
He's hip.
I'm a traveler.
He's a big EDM guy. All right, Utah Mammoth on the clock. Here we go.
Utah has made their selection. With the 14th pick in the 2nd round, the Utah Mammoth select Max Shaniska from Portland in the Western Hockey League.
All right, the Mammoth.
Max
Jason taking Max Sinichka, a defenseman out of Czechia, came to the WHL from Czechia, made his Portland debut in late January of this year.
Shocker, boys. 6'5", 185 pounds.
Oh, to Utah?
Yeah, I did to Utah. Yeah, so
they are the Mammoth.
Next order of selection belongs to
he's a little bit of a project. He really is, but highly competitive.
Vancouver Canucks on the
length.
clock.
I think he's a 3rd pairing defenseman on projection. Big body shot blocker. These guys have exceptional value when they arrive in the National Hockey League. And it's going to get redundant, but these types of players, they know what they are. Don't expect much offense out of them, but length, skates on straight lines, absolutely fine. And like I said, highly competitive. So he's going to take some time. And you know what? Utah has time. They got a ton of prospects, and they can take their time in the player development mold with this player.
Is this the NBA draft, guys?
Wow.
14 guys 6'5" or taller so far. 14 here on day 2.
15th pick in the 2nd
round. The whole draft, sorry, but
the Canucks have selected Alexei Medvedev from London of the Ontario Hockey League.
All right, Vancouver getting a goaltender in Alexei Medvedev. Jason led
goalie.
all OHL rookie goaltenders in wins 22 and save percentage 912. Is this guy under 6 feet? Probably
Why
not.
is Philadelphia up
under 6
again?
feet. He's over
Come on,
6'2", as a
man.
matter
How
of
often
fact.
do these
Athletic.
guys have
I love his
picks?
crease composure. Stays between the posts.
Philadelphia has
So
like
goaltenders
a
who are
million
big
picks
and
this
long,
round,
when
man.
they
Come
travel
on.
too far east-west, boys, they lose their size advantage. They got to get back to the middle of the net. He did not do that. He's got great crease composure. Dave Rook, the goaltender coach there in London, raves about him. Again, he didn't play in the playoffs, and it didn't matter. You had to do your work between games 1 and the end of the regular season, and Todd Harvey works as hard as anybody, so great pick.
Made their selection.
They haven't had a 2nd-round pick in 3 years, so Vancouver Canucks are like, what are we doing here? This is great. I haven't seen this in a while.
Shane Vansagi.
All right, big ovation there, Tony, for Shane Vansagi, a winger out of Michigan State of the NCAA. Born and raised in St. Louis, he was at the parade in 2019 after the Blues won the Stanley Cup. No longer a Blues fan, though. He is a Flyer fan.
Yeah, and he fits the Flyer image. They're getting another Rick Tocchet type of player here. This guy's a power forward as well. He is a guy that trained with both Kachucks in the summer, so I think he's learning a little bit from both Matthew and Brady. So, and I think he's a smart kid. I think if I was training in the summer, I'd be training with the Kachucks as well. So he's at Michigan State. His jump from the development program to college went really well. He has done a really nice job of fitting in a role as a 3rd-line position in college hockey already. He's at the net front. He's one of those guys, if the puck's in the corner, he's finding a way to come out of it. So he's fitting with what the Phillies trying to do here.
Another one of those late birthday guys, and that's a common thread that we're going to see throughout rounds 2 through 7. You find those late birthday guys who are a little further along in their development because of their age. late birthday meaning born after September 15th, 2006.
A player comparable for me, guys, when he arrives in the NHL, he's a Nola Chari type of player. He's built like a freight train, big, strong. Nola Chari plays the middle. Bansagi's going to be a power winger, but this guy is going to open up time and space for people around him, no question.
Tony, what does that moment feel like when you put the sweater on of an NHL team for the very first time in your life?
Well, I did it at a training camp, so I didn't have the ability to do it at a draft party or anything like that. But you look down at it, you get the chills, you think of
Does
all
it feel
of
real at that point?
I mean, from the standpoint that you've been your dream your whole life, and most of the games you played in your basement and in your backyard, you were an NHL player, and Stan Mikita was my guy, so I was Stan Mikita all those.
He's a good guy.
And all of a sudden, I put on a New York Ranger jersey, and you realize, holy cow, it's here. So you're shaking, you got a lot of different emotions going through yourself.
With the 17th pick in the second round, the Carolina Hurricanes have selected Charlie Serrato from Penn State, the Big Ten Conference.
All right, Mike Kelly, Charlie Serrato, a centerman out of Penn State, named a finalist for the 2024-2025 Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
The next selection belongs to
I like it. This is an overager. He's been passed over in the NHL draft twice, and he didn't really pop with the U.S. national team. Goes to Penn State, has a real kind of breakout year. We projected him 44th overall, pretty close. I didn't think he would go this high, but I really like this pick. His percentiles are through the roof, largely, again, because he's a couple years older than some of the guys he's playing against, but good two-way player, somebody that coaches trust. Nothing to me that really jumps off the page and pops in a huge way, but I think this is a guy that could be a solid bottom six forward in the National Hockey League, and like that pick at that spot for Serrato.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I recruited the kid. He was originally going to Michigan. He had some injury problems and then decided he'd be better off going to Penn State.
Well, there's still Matthew Guard. I really like Matthew Guard, 6'4" center,
the years
200
he was hurt at the
pounds.
development team, he got slotted when he did return into some different roles that weren't real offensive, and he tried to adjust to that. Was difficult for him, and finally got the confidence that he needs to have to be successful. And this kid's dynamic, and he's a worker. He's going to work for what he's going to get in front of him. He knows he's got to put it in, and I think this was a very good pick.
Don't sleep on the Penn State program. It's coming, and it's coming like a freight train.
They got money to spend, and with the NIL, they can get any
Matthew
big name player
Guard
in there that they want. So, yeah. How do you think the whole...
Devils have made their selection.
All right, Devils are on the clock, and let's listen.
With the 18th pick in the second round and the 50th overall pick, the New Jersey Devils select Conrad Fondrick from the National Team Development Program in the USHL.
All right, Sammy, this is your guy, Conrad Fondrick, a winger out of the NTDP. Had some adversity this year, breaking his leg in March. That was a game against University of Wisconsin.
I had a great sit down with him in April, and you could tell that it was so meaningful for him to be able to try and play the rest of his draft year, but also a guy who understood that the adversity faced from the injury was going to be something that was going to help him along later. And we've talked a lot about the character of these guys and how they understand and that self-realization. Well, you're watching all your buddies go about doing their thing, and you don't have the opportunity to do it because you're hurt. But you can be there in spirit. You can cheer your guys along. You can go and work out as best you can on your other parts of body that are not injured. So I look at Fondrick very similar to some of the other guys, the Murtags and the McKinneys of the world, who bring a two-way style of game. I think this guy leans a little more to the offensive side than maybe the other two do. And that part of his creativity and what he's able to bring to the table, I think, is going to help a team moving forward. And the New Jersey Devils obviously feel the same way.
He has a real aggressive mindset and approach. Like, he gets after it, this kid, and I appreciate that about his game. Obviously, setbacks there injury-wise. I just want to double down on what Tony was saying about Serrato there going to Penn State. There's only one puck at the program, and if you get an injury setback and you come into these elite lineups, sometimes it's going to take longer for you to get the opportunity that you think you deserve. Good on the kid for persevering, and that should be the message. It doesn't take one draft, two drafts. You got to stick to it, get to where you're going to be most comfortable, and then thrive. That's work ethic and commitment, and that's what gets you drafted in the National Hockey League.
Good job, Jace.
I know we talked a whole lot about Gavin McKenna, who we will probably be calling #1 overall next year, but rumored to be Penn State's in the mix, Michigan State's in the mix. How do you think the whole new changing of the landscape with some of these OHL kids that we're going to see maybe make that jump to the NCAA hockey program? How do you think that shapes the landscape?
I'm glad I'm not coaching right now and having to deal with all of this, the portal, and then all these now Canadian kids can come over. And I'm not surprised that the Canadian kids can finally come over. I think that's been a long time coming that should have happened. It's adjusting. Each program's going to have to adjust on how they do their recruiting. And Jace, you and I talked about this a lot last year. How are teams going to have, they have 2 recruiters on their staff. How are they possibly going to recruit all in the United States? You got USHL, the North American League, the high schools to recruit from, and now you got to go scout the Canadian Junior League. So a lot of networking, I think, will be important. I think a lot of schools right now are trying to build relationships with the junior team so they can send some of their potential incoming players there and vice versa coming back. So I think we'll see a little bit of that.
19th pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Boston Bruins have selected William Moore from the National Team Development Program in the USHL.
Tony Boyer, the Boston Bruins, getting a gem in this kid, William Moore, a center out of the NTDP. This kid won the Little Mozart's International Competition in 2017, earned him a spot to perform at Carnegie Hall.
Well, I think
so hockey's
the
good,
Leafs
but man, those hands
were willing to take a risk on a Russian player. That's why I wanted Daniil
This kid is a
Prokhorov.
real special kid, and again, I
But,
following that development team pretty closely.
At this point, I'm looking at Matthew Guard as a center that they should choose.
Around the net. Understands his, again, it's a pretty common theme with a lot of these players, but understands what he's good at and recognizes that if I'm going to continue to show well, I got to be there and be around the net.
Yeah, I think
his hands are sweet, and one of these
a
kids
good
that
idea
I think
for
has got really
the
good
Toronto
upside.
Maple Leafs to have Toronto kids on their
the
team,
most
and they have a
fascinating
lot of.
interview I've ever had.
They
with
just
the
lost
kid.
one
I mean,
in Nick
this guy
Marner,
is
but to
so
have Toronto kids is
worldly.
good.
He's so educated.
Tanev is a local
He was
kid.
deaf from the years 2 to 8, and then ends up, being a piano star, conservatory style piano. Like, this guy could play probably in this theater with his piano acumen. But the hockey side is what's really interesting to me. I mean, he's from the Toronto area, dual citizenship, played his minor hockey in Toronto, had an opportunity to go to the CHL, and felt like, and you look at his body, that he needed to get bigger and stronger, and felt that the program was going to do that for him. So he comes into the program, and that team is kind of all over the map. They finally put it together at the end of the year. And
Minnesota Wild selected Theodore Hallqvist from Örebro, the Swedish Junior League.
And if I can, JMO, I just want to wrap that up on Moore. He had a really good under-18s, but there is a fascinating guy there who's highly, highly skilled. Like to see him get to the interior a little more. I'm fascinated to track his program.
Jason, for the Minnesota Wild getting in Theodore Hallqvist, who they just took.
Yeah, so this is a Minnesota Wild, Bill Guerin style of player, absolutely. By the way, I'm shocked that Moore fell to that spot there. Good on the Boston Bruins. But here you're going to get a role player, a defenseman that, he's not going to be the most active. There's not going to be a lot of dine and dash with this guy here. I have him as a 7, guys, and I might be conservative when I say that, but he's a shutdown guy, and it's very difficult for me at this stage of the draft to say that there's going to be a guy that's going to be a middle pairing or even a third pairing. Those are the guys that I'm looking to draft here. So when I have him as a depth, it might be a little rich, but that's this draft. That's exactly what's going to happen. So people, fans of the game, don't get concerned, and that's just this draft class. Round 2 guys, depth people, depth pieces to round out your organization. That's what this kid's going to offer here. He plays to an identity.
We finished 6th among all U18 defensemen in points in the J20 National this season with 22. You can see friends and family. I love that. The hugs, the embrace, the photos. This is a memory. This is a day that they'll last for the rest of their lives. This is the biggest day of their hockey lives to this point.
Yeah, it's cool. And even on day 2, you see some of those guys that hang around, and some that, they're looking at the rankings that we were putting out and saying, oh, I should have gone higher. But really, it doesn't matter what happens today. Doesn't matter what happens yesterday. It's about carrying it forward from today on, which is going to define your hockey career.
Yeah, and if you remember how the draft finished yesterday with Calgary's pick, Lanny McDonald walks up to the stage. He's going to introduce the Calgary pick, then Colin Potter, and he says, everybody that's not going to get drafted today, do not panic, do not worry. You are still valued, and get ready to celebrate no matter when you get drafted, because you're going to get that opportunity, and you deserve to have one of the special days and most special days of your life. So I thought Lanny really finished the draft off well with that comment.
I totally agree. That was a nice touch for sure. The thing with Hallqvist here, and I want to double down on what you just said there. You said he's 6.
Their selection.
I'll pick it up after this pick here.
With the 21st pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the San Jose Sharks have selected Cole McKinney from the National Team Development Program in the USHL.
All right, Cole McKinney there, but Jason, if you just want to put a bow on what
I want to put a bow on Hallquick because you mentioned he was the 6th leading defenseman scorer at the J20 level, which is kind of like Tier 2 hockey in North America over there. When he played on the national team, he flips the script, and that's where he's playing more to that other identity. So the offense isn't elite enough on projection for me, even though he puts up those stats. So I don't want the kid to get misled in any way. I'm not saying you did that, JMO, but I'm trying to say, like, when you scout around the world, how it projects and you kind of puzzle it together.
Yeah, sure, and it is a tough puzzle to put together. Sam, help us piece together this puzzle. Cole McKinney led all NTDP skaters this year in points with 61.
Yeah, it's surprising how many
I mean, 61
London
points.
Knights
He too is
have
another
been
one
on
of
the
those guys
leagues.
that gets
Mitch
after
Marner,
it. He plays
John
both sides of the
Tavares,
puck. There's a lot of
Easton
good
Cowan.
high-end skill to his game, as evidenced by those 61 points. So I like the fact that he's able to play both ways, and the fact that he can be a pain to play against.
From your garden, the Swedish Junior League.
All right, Mike Kelly, Theo Stockselius.
He was a plan
center
C
from your
for
garden
me.
Junior of the Swedish Junior
But at
League.
least
This kid,
6'3"
adversity-filled
center.
childhood, developed thyroid cancer at the age of 15, but he is persevering now.
Yeah, has he ever? I've got a soft spot for Theo Stockselius, 6'3" center from Djurgården, high hockey IQ. Puck protection skills are fantastic. You look at his physicality, puck carrying. We had him 37, so we think highly of this guy. And to me, that's a really good get for the Calgary Flames at 54. The data comparable, John Tavares, I think that's, he doesn't have the offensive side there, but that's what the kind of player we're talking about here, and just how he protects the puck, the 200-foot game that he has. I can see him
all the players I like in the
carving out a
second
role
round
as a
are
really
getting
good third-line center,
snapped up.
two-way forward. If all goes well, maybe you're thinking like an Anton Lundell type player. And if you can get that at this spot at 54 for the Calgary Flames, that's going to be a home run. So I'm a big fan of this guy, and I think Calgary gets good value here, guys.
I just wanted to double down on Cole McKinney real quick. Again, I go back to the U18s. Not only was he the leading scorer there at the program this year, guys, boy, oh boy, he's got a little rat to him. Like, he's in the grill.
Yeah, I love it.
He's in the grill of his opponents. He's trash talking. He doesn't quit on anything. He's got a little jab
in a
to him.
smart way.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't get himself in penalty problem, but the other team knows when they're playing against.
Hey, Rats are in vogue these days, JT. 4 years at 4.38. What a great deal for the Leafs.
Doing something dumb,
John
right?
Tavares
With his
is
approach.
a legend.
I personally, I think
the
that San
discount.
Jose, that's great for them.
JT Comfer, who was at the program as well, he reminds me a little bit of that, kind of played behind a bunch of guys. He didn't play behind a lot of guys because they didn't have that really high-end skilled guy there, but ultimately he plays that type of a game that JT has been so successful.
So valuable for sure.
All right, who's on the clock here? Minute and a half to go, and we've got the Nashville Predators back on the clock, who have already made a selection here in round number 2, taking Jacob Rombach all the way back with the 3rd pick here in round number 2. Are we seeing a theme start to shape up here early on in day number 2?
Big guys, big defense, not necessarily concerned about the high-end skill, and as Book says, talked about playing in your first pairing, guys that are going to fill out the back end, probably from your 5 spot on into a lineup and add additional depth on the back end to your lineup too. So I think it's a nice luxury for teams. You identify how you want to play, you identify your top pairings, got to move pucks and be offensively gifted. That goes without saying now. That probably stretches into your 3rd D-man, and then once you get 4 through 7, you have to have that physicality, the length, the reach, the ability to eat pucks, play on the PK, and we're seeing a lot of those type of players being selected here early in round 2. The one fascinating thing to me, guys, is this Ivan Rabkin. With what he did this year, coming over, everyone thought he'd be a top 10 pick, and he's still on the board here. Again,
drop a like and a
NHL
subscribe,
Combine
please. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
every
guys.
team that I talk to, but the skill set, if you can get this guy figured out, man, I think you're going to find a real gem at this part of the draft. But Books, you and I talk about this a lot. Like, if you see red flags, does it matter where you go in the draft, or do you simply say, I'm not going down that road?
Well, we didn't have the opportunity to interview him, but I can tell you that the eye test was very concerning here. So there's some things that you absolutely, the red flags for him. Muskegon went on a run. They made right to the final in the USHL this year. He had a long season, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, bouncing around a bunch of teams, coming to North America, getting adjusted, going to Muskegon, etc. But how does a young athlete from February to the end of the year put on the type of weight that he put on, and the things that happen? So there's a lot of coaching up that has to do here. Here's the thing, though, boys. You can't teach offense. You're gifted with a certain pedigree with puck touch, and he has that. He rips the pill, and he's really good that way. The fitness you can work out. If you can get inside the head and train him up up, build them up. So this is well worth the risk in this range. I want to double down on the size thing here, though. Nashville's, they're taking their time. I'm curious now they've had a lot of picks. I'm curious now if we start to getting into the Schmitz and the Moonies and the Owen Griffins, these types of players. Smaller guys, because this is right in that range as well.
Yeah, not a single player so far in round number 2 has been selected under 6 feet.
Isn't that something?
Eat your protein, kids. All right, sounds like we've got something working behind the scenes, potentially a trade here, because Nashville has ran out of time in round number 2 with their second pick here in round number 2. So while we wait on the official announcement, where do you see Nashville this season? Because on paper, coming into last season, man, it looked great. Yeah. It looked so good, and as we've learned in hockey, things don't always translate from paper to ice. So how do you see Nashville maybe bouncing back in a big way this year?
I think the finish 2 years ago, when they were probably one of the best teams heading into playoffs 2 years ago, kind of threw them off on their plan.
There's
I think
a trade
they thought
coming.
that meant they were really, really close, and if they could add that offense, which they were always solid defensively, we always knew going into Nashville, they're going to be hard to play against and hard to create any sort of offense. And they changed their identity over that summer to turn into, okay, let's start scoring goals. So I go back to the Ryan McDonough moving out to move all those pieces in. I go back to that as just a simple little thing, to say, okay, we're adding Brady Shea, we're adding Stamkos, we're adding Marshall Show, we're adding all these skilled guys. We're going to
is trading pick number 55 to Vegas.
Games in the past by being stingy defensively.
Jordan Kyrou is still the
St.
Louis.
Try to change your identity a little bit, hurt them bad.
And where did Ryan McDonough go back to? Tampa? And what kind of season did they have? Yeah,
pretty good.
Peace on the back end. All right, here we go. I love that thing. Scares me to death every time I see it. The trade alert.
Have a trade to announce. The Nashville Predators have traded their pick number 55 in the 2025 NHL Draft to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for picks number 58 and number 122 in the 2025 NHL Draft. Means Vegas is now on the clock.
All right, so Nashville taking all 3 minutes to trade back 3 spots. Vegas jumps up, so they're on the clock here with pick number 55 of round number 2, also exchanging pick 122 as well.
So the next 2 teams, that's very much Rabkin territory for me. Right, Vegas has been, Trevor Connolly last year. They've taken Brisson. They've had some guys in the first round that they usually don't keep because they're always in win now mode. But they're the type of team that I think might take a chance here, and so too is Tampa. They've had some success scouting some Russian players in the past, so I'd be fascinated to see if that comes to fruition here in one of the next 2 picks.
Yeah, Vegas' first pick of this
I was going to say both Vegas and Tampa, correct? Tampa didn't have one yet either.
What does for you, right?
Only 8 teams made picks yesterday, which is kind of fascinating in itself, isn't it? Can I double down from my time in Nashville, Tone? And
yes,
you were coaching the National Hockey League at that time, but when I worked for David Poyle, the one thing that he always stressed with us in terms of team identity, and we were different back then. We weren't a cap team. We had to be, but Trotzy was the head coach. And
Vegas has made their selection.
I'll get back to it because I think it's kind of cool.
The 23rd pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft. The Vegas Golden Knights have selected Jacob Iswozniak from Luleå of the Swedish Junior League.
Forgot about him.
All right, Mike Kelly, I should ask you to spell it on the spot, but I won't do that. Jakob Iswozniak, a winger out of Luleå Junior of the Swedish Junior Hockey League. Born in Australia. Good day, mate. Moved to Sweden when he was a toddler. Take it away.
There you go, JMO. Yeah, we still don't have anyone under 6 feet, I guess, because he's not. Look, I think the thing that jumps off the page about this player here is he's one of the best finishers in the draft. You take a look at his scoring percentile rank among all forwards in this draft. He's in the 94th percentile. We had him 34th. So, if you're looking at 55 here for a player that Vegas moved up to get, I think they see a lot of really good attributes in him as well. 23 goals in 40 games last season. Got a little bit of taste in the SHL as well. I don't see him as a guy that's going to drive a line, but a competent player in a middle 6 who can obviously put the puck in the net. Good offensive instincts. Maybe a Svechnikov type of element to his game as a goal scorer if he can round out the playmaking. We had Zibanejad as a data comp too. So I like the move by Vegas to move up to get a guy who can absolutely finish. He's got an NHL ready shot already.
I'll just put a bow on the and I want to come back to what Kel's just said there because it's bang on with the Zibanejad. The Predators thing, David Foyle, he directed us that we had to draft kids that were relentless competitors with high-end character all the time. And to your point, Tony, I think the Preds were kind of chasing some things last year. Now, when you look at how they're drafting and their future development here, they're getting back into that mold. Now, hey, the Mika Zibanejad comparison there by Kel's, holy, that is absolutely bang on. Like, Mika Zibanejad's best ship is outstanding. And then when it's not, it's not. That is exactly like this player here. Great mitts, goal scorer. Sometimes he disappears. I would challenge you, Tony, if we sat down at a wobbly pop after a game at the U18.
And we might.
But even at the U18s, he came and went for us. Right. Came and went for us.
The 24th pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft. The Tampa Bay Lightning have selected Ethan Zada from Niagara of the Ontario Hockey League.
Zada.
All right, Sam.
And guess
Tampa
what?
Selecting Ethan
Philadelphia
Zada,
Flyers are up
a
to
center
draft
out of
again.
Niagara of the OHL after recording 17 points in 62 games last season. Big jump this year, 55 points in 68 games.
Next order of selection belongs to the Philadelphia Flyers.
5 points in 7 games there, but he's a really interesting guy. From a skill perspective, his skill is it's elite. Like, he can find open seams. He can get to open ice. He's got some good reach. He can skate. And I think the one undercover part of his game is that his compete every now and then pushes him over the edge. Got to drop the gloves sometimes. No problem doing that. And I don't think that's an element because he's a skilled guy that people realize he has in his back pocket. But I look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. Rod Kittamura is the scout who works the Ontario region. He would have seen Ethan a number of times. Also the same guy who was high on Anthony Cirelli some time ago. And that's where Tampa Bay really made their mark, getting contributions from guys lower in the draft. Same way Detroit did it with Datsuk and Zetterberg. You see that the Tampa Bay Lightning have had a history of doing it, and Ethan Zada is a guy that is right in the mold of this Tampa Bay Lightning team.
When Hagel was playing his OA year in Red Deer way back in the day,
yeah.
Buffalo Sabres draft pick, and then of course he ends up turning into what he is today at the National Hockey League. Zada reminds you a lot.
Flyers have submitted their selection.
Relentless.
Yeah.
This kid will beat the paint off if you're not careful. Like, he's really hard to play against.
The Philadelphia Flyers have selected Matthew Guard from Red Deer, the Western Hockey League.
All right, so the Flyers making their 4th selection
That's where I
already in
wanted the
round
Leafs to
number
pick.
2. It's Matthew Guard, a center out of Red Deer in the WHL. Sam won a gold medal at the 2025 U18
All
World
my picks for
Championships.
the Leafs are
that was
gone.
his first time ever playing for Team Canada. Not bad.
I had a great chat with him at the Combine, and he understands that he's a late bloomer. So he ends up going a little bit lower in the WHL draft, and he arrives on the doorstep of the Red Deer Rebels. Dave Struch takes over as coach there last year with a few games left. And in his first game, he watches this guy
I'm so bummed
throw
out
a
right
water
now.
bottle, smash a stick, and close the gate. He says, what is going on here with this guy? And that continues on for a little bit until he pulls guard and says, hey, listen, we love what you do, but you got to find a way to temper that enthusiasm. You can't be throwing stuff around. You can't be getting ticked off. But that was based in his drive to win and be competitive. As a big guy who would rip your head off, he's a guy who's got to put on some weight, no question about it. But you're talking about a nasty piece of business and a guy that you don't want to play against. Matthew Guard is that guy.
All right, Matthew Guard at 57. You can see a big cheer for Jack.
That's his dad, by the way. Let's
yes,
keep this in mind for a second here.
Next order of selection belongs to the Los Angeles Kings.
All right,
The
Sam, what can you
Los
tell us about Ivan
Angeles
Kovic?
Kings.
Well, his dad, Frank, was an OHL draft guy, okay? And you saw how big he was. The thing about Jack, it's only the size. I promise you, his technical game, his winning pedigree, the way he's a teammate, his character, all fit the guy if you want what you want in a #1 goalie. But because of the size, everyone backed off. In my opinion, this guy was right on the fringes of the first round, especially because of that winning pedigree and all that he's done with Team Canada. So I think this is a steal of a pick here. And if you project him to get anywhere near his dad, who's about 6'4", you will have hit a home run with this guy. He'll be a #1 goalie, I believe, in the National Hockey League. But again, we're probably not seeing that for another 7 years. Think a little bit about Dustin Wolf if he doesn't grow.
With the 27th pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Los Angeles Kings have selected Wojtek Sihar from Karlovy in the Czech League.
All right, so Wojtek
Anaheim Ducks are
Chihars,
on
a
the
winger out of
Anaheim
Czechia.
Ducks are on the
NHL comparison, a bigger version
Anaheim
of
Ducks
the
are on the
boards. So, pretty cool moment there. And then, just while Wojtek's having his moments,
he got traded.
The alarm goes off.
CR got traded.
Yeah.
Trade rumors.
We shall see. Let's listen.
The Anaheim Ducks have traded goaltender John Gibson to the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for Peter Mrazek, Detroit's second-round selection in the 2027 NHL Draft, and Detroit's fourth-round selection in the 2026 NHL Draft.
There's the John Gibson trade
All right, so
announcement.
Anaheim now on the clock.
The Anaheim Ducks are now on the clock.
There you go. Anaheim making that trade that Elliot told us about a couple of minutes ago. So John Gibson off to Detroit in exchange for Peter
There's a
Mrazek,
rumor the New York
second-round pick
Islanders
in
are trading
2027, a fourth-round pick in
Matthew
2026.
Barzal.
A couple of Ducks fans, you heard them in attendance. They
Not
had John
confirmed.
Gibson. No!
Not happy.
I know, but that's been rumored for so many years now. Yeah. It was inevitable, right?
You wonder where the money is, but the large part of this trade and why it was happened and why it's been rumored to happen is Lucas Dostal. Like, let's make no mistake about it. So I think they're in a fascinating spot. You get that kind of backup in Mrazek, who can play a run of games if you really need to, but now you've handed the ball over to Dostal, and I think that's a good move, especially if you're able to free up the money there for Anaheim as they move forward.
And it's a little similar to the Spencer Knight coming to Chicago. You want your starting goaltender to grow with those young players. You got Vlasic and you got Grinzel and Lushanev and obviously the young Fords and Bedard and the other guys. And I think that's part of the thing there in Anaheim too. Let your young goalie run with these other young players and grow
100%.
together.
The Anaheim Ducks have selected Lassi Bolius from Massat in the Finnish Junior League.
All right,
There's a
folks,
Finn.
Lassi Boelius, a defenseman out of Assat Junior, the Finnish Junior League.
This is a tough year for the Finns. It's gone in cycles, and this is a hockey nation that takes a lot of pride in developing players. Lassi Boelius, he played
Oilers
a key role
need to draft
for the
some
Finns
goalies.
on the
They need to
international
develop
stage
some
within his
goalies. They
age
need to
group.
trade for a
Don't get
goalie.
scared
Oilers
off
need to
by
be
the
all over
offensive
goalies.
numbers there. I think it's more the surrounding than anything else. As he grows to play surrounded by more quality, he skates really well. He sees the ice. He can rush it. He can make real smart plays in the offensive zone. And I liked him at the under 18s here in Texas. I thought it was his best hockey to end the season. He stood out on the Finnish team for sure. This is a good pick. This is solid. 2-way deep.
If you go back 8 or 9 years ago, you think about all the players that were coming out of Finland, high-end guys, and they are definitely in a downturn right now. And it's interesting, you talk to some scouts, and you would have seen it firsthand, but like their U18 team, their U20 team, you know you're going to get
The Leafs are coming up. The Leafs are coming up. Let's go, number 64. Rapkin. The Leafs are going to take Rapkin. Let's go. Let's go. I like it.
Again,
Let's
it's not
go.
an effort thing. It's just that there's too much B game, and they don't have enough A game in this cycle, and so they're not able to impact the game offensively as a group. And that's why I'm saying with Bolius, it's also the surrounding. I think there's something there that's untapped.
With the 29th pick in the second round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Boston Bruins have selected Liam Pettersson from Vaxo of the Swedish Junior League.
Pettersson.
All right, Mike Kelly, Liam Pettersson, defenseman, going to Boston.
It's hard to say what the Leafs Cup window is going to be.
Yeah, 6'2",
I mean, 5 years ago, they said the Leafs Cup window is now, and now the Cup window is actually now. So
this was a
I
guy
don't know
that
about
on
Cup
some
windows.
draft lists was, a lot farther down.
If you continue to develop
so that kind of
and
falls in line
sign
with where he was selected
highly
here.
talented players,
watching
you
him,
can be
in terms of puck moving and
you
transition,
can be in a Cup contention
Travis
window for
Sanheim's
a
a guy
long
that
time.
comes to name as someone who just skates it really well. He's still got to fill out a little bit. There's work to do on the defensive side of things with him. He was bottom 10th percentile.
Oh, you're talking about the Oilers. Yeah.
In terms of
the Oilers Cup window is closing quick, especially with McDavid not really sure he's going to commit 8 years there.
Fill out a little bit, improve defensively, turn into
have made their selection.
What they want him to be. It'll be a good pick.
With the 30th pick in the second round, the Carolina Hurricanes have selected Ivan Ryabkin from Muskegon.
Oh my God, there goes
United States
Rapkin.
Hockey League.
All right, Boots,
Wow,
Ivan Rapkin, a
bro.
centerman out of Dynamo Moscow Junior of the MHL. The young Russian scored 2 goals in his USHL debut back on January 3rd.
Yeah, so this is the kid we were talking about. I had him in my first round as a wild card based
The
on
Oilers
skill.
are pretty
and
old
the reason
team,
I had
yeah.
him there
And they're
was
still
that
trying to
skill.
work
The
on
rest of it he can coach
keeping
up. He
Perry
can
in
teach
free
fitness
agency.
as
Can you
long as
believe
his
that?
buy-in is where it needs to
The
be.
guy is cursed. He's been
There's
to so
lots to
many
like
cup
here. This
finals
is,
and
at
never
this
won.
point in the draft,
I would
boys,
never have
this
that
is
guy on my team.
absolutely fantastic. No
Cursed.
problem with this.
Is this
So
our
what is
first
it, 6
player under 6
finals
feet?
he's been to?
It's right.
It says 5'11". I think he looks a little bigger than 5'11". So we might have to get the tape measure out after the draft to see if he qualifies for under 6 feet.
I think when you look at the stature on the camera shot, you're
Why
hoping
couldn't the
he's
Leafs
definitely
get
over 6
Rapkin?
feet at
Come on,
210
man.
Bills, but he's stocky. He's still like
Guard.
a fire hydrant, like he really is.
Amico.
I don't know if he's going to grow any taller. He's got that, that European look where he doesn't
Daniil
look like he's going to get any
Popra. All the
taller.
guys I
He's strong
wanted
as a bull
have
as well.
taken already.
Skill's
Man.
pretty sick, though.
What
You
is
have
going
to,
on right now?
when you look at this guy and what he can do on a power play,
Who are the Leafs going to select?
unbelievable
Trade down
stuff.
and get
His
another
vision,
pick.
his ability to
Trade
shoot
down
it,
and get another
all those
pick.
things play well
The
in
Leafs are on the
power play, of
clock.
course.
Let's
The
go. The
transition
Leafs are
coming from
on the
Russia,
clock. The
in
Leafs
December
are
to
on
get
the
over
clock.
and play in the
The
Muskegon.
Leafs
That
are
can
on
be
the
very
clock. Let's
challenging,
go.
and so you have to provide a bit of a mulligan there.
18 years old, and you play on
situation.
4 teams in 2 different countries in the world. That's not easy. Come on. So let's give him a break here. Good for him to go here. I'm sure he was stressed out. Nice pick for Carolina.
And Carolina, I mean, they have no problem going to Russia whatsoever. They've done that over and over again. 18 of their last 44 picks come from Russia. One of the teams that's not afraid to take a chance.
All right, Tony, Ben Keevan, New Jersey Devils.
Ben Keevan, a California kid. You hear the little extra.
Who are the
applause
Leafs
in the
taking? Come on.
here, so really nice. Played LA Junior
Trade down and
teams
get another
here.
pick.
Lots of his youth hockey, but he was in the U18 tournament as well. Real fast skater. Pretty good mitts on the kid. He's going to Arizona State to play with Cullen Potter next year. Or he might play another year of juniors, but he'll be at Arizona State and be a really nice college player. But he did scored a big goal for Team USA. I would say that would be a big one.
Yeah, it was the OT game winner, the bronze medal game
so
in the
that was
U18s.
yes, it was. It wasn't quite the gold medal one that Petty Stiga scored at the World Juniors, but it was
Big
a
enough.
big goal for a medal for Team USA. So there he is with his Devils jersey.
Certainly that moment, living up to this moment right here, putting on the Devil sweater for the first time. And that's when these kids start to kind of realize that dream. But that dream's just beginning. The journey now starts today.
It does, because, most of the kids that you saw getting off the planes had to wait for their hockey bags and luggage
Come
because
on,
they know
Leafs.
they're heading straight to development camps tomorrow. So they've had, a lot of the guys had the combines, and if you finish your playoffs, I don't know if they've had a break or had a chance to go to Disneyland or Disney World or gotten any sort of vacation time, because it's pretty much.
Roger McQueen had time to go to Disney. That was about it.
Helicopter.
To go see Nice way to go.
McQueen.
Yeah. Oh, unbelievable. Life is a highway, playing it. They nailed it here.
I just want to put a quick bow on the Anaheim
The
trade
Maple
there.
Leafs have
Let's
made
not
their
forget that
selection
Lucas Dosso's an RFA too, who's
with
played
the
54 games last year, so
32nd
he's got to
and
get paid
last
in that
pick,
whole
second
transaction.
round of the 2025 NHL Draft. The Toronto Maple Leafs have selected Tennis Luke Koblar from Leksand of the Swedish Junior League.
Who?
All right, so the final selection of round number 2, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tinas Luke
Completes the
Koblar,
second round
a
of the 2025
player
NHL
from the
Draft.
Swedish Junior League, played for Leksand Junior.
Selection of the third
So
round.
there you go.
of the
Round number
2025
2 in the
NHL
books.
Draft.
And
Tinas
we're going to take a
Luke
quick
Koblar.
timeout here from the Peacock
You
Theater
are on the
in
clock.
LA. When we come back, round number 3.
I don't have
Teams
him on
back
my
on the
list,
clock.
guys. I don't have him on my list, guys. I don't have him on my list, guys. Bummer.
Introducing the first
Bummer.
superhero-inspired hockey trading card set.
Shall we
The
Google him?
2025 DC Fanimation
Shall we
crossover.
Google it?
Collect hockey players sporting uniforms inspired by DC superheroes exclusively on UpperDeckEPAC.com. Set up your free account today and add to your collection.
Tennis Luke Koblar. He's a 6'3", 190-pound. What is he? It just says forward. He was ranked.
Toyota takes you there. Don't miss out. Get in and go at your local Toyota dealer today.
Tennis Luke Koblar's
Today,
is a
let's paint
big-bodied
with Bear.
center with a
already done.
rather
painted
projectable
earlier.
mechanical
We're done
base.
painting.
He employs
Well,
a
you
deep,
usually have to
steady
show up and
skating
motivate
stride and
Not
can
us.
be
He did the research.
deceivingly
Bear is the
fast,
most trusted paint
which he used to
It was a
generate value
no-brainer.
both in
Everybody should use
transition
Bear.
as a
It
puck
really
carrier
transformed to
and
space.
through an
Yeah,
imposing
it's Bear
forechecking
Adirondack.
presence.
Well, I guess I'm not really
That
needed here
doesn't sound
today.
too bad, guys.
No.
That doesn't
gone.
sound too.
I'm still here.
That doesn't
Do
sound
your
too bad.
research
I
and
just
get
read
great
that off of
quality paint
Elite,
at an everyday
Elite
low price,
Prospects
only at the Home
2025
Depot.
Draft Guide. 6'3", 190-pound
Knew that
forward.
I was bound to accomplish something.
He was born in Norway. He's 17 years old. Dobber Prospects had him ranked 64. NHL Central Scouting by European European skaters had him ranked at number 56. The Hockey Network had him ranked at 55.
I'm here to save you.
It could be something there. You never know. That sounded promising.
A chance to give.
Let's look at his stats.
I want to remind you that your life means a lot.
And you can share that life
With those who really need it. Here we go. One more.
He's played
I'm here
in
to save you.
Norway under
Like you're here to
16,
save
under
me.
18, under 20, Sweden under 18, under 18,
it's your
under
gut
20.
instinct.
So he's played a lot
Always
of
one step
international
ahead.
hockey there.
I know what's up and who's
Well,
up. So next time the game's on,
If you're
and it
looking for
feels
more information on this kid,
bet your way with
I will definitely have something up on my site in terms of a blog real
Lunch or
soon.
dinner differently at Tim's with our new Supreme Stack.
Real soon.
Piled high with
Let's
sliced
see what
seasoned
this kid
steak
looks
and
like.
double smoked bacon.
Shall we Google
it's
a
sandwich
picture?
that's built to satisfy. Tim's differently with the new Supreme
Holy
Stack.
smokes, this kid is huge.
With Prime
Bro,
Day
look at this
coming
guy's
July
pic.
8th through the 11th, greatness is a deal away.
Kid looks huge.
Shop deals from home to electronics on Prime Day.
He looks tall as hell.
You cracked it. Cracker Barrel, the premium cheese to elevate your meals.
Welcome back to the 2025 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7.
Guys, look how big he looks in this picture. He's the guy in the white jersey as compared to the guys in the other one.
He's always there if I need any help.
I like it. Good pick. Last pick in the second round.
No matter what.
All about
He's
value.
taught me, a lot about
His YouTube
preparing
highlights
as a
are not
pro and how to be a
impressive.
pro,
Wow.
so,
I don't know
cool
about the
to
highlights.
kind of,
When you're
ask him
playing in lower level
I've seen from a young age
Norway
what it takes
leagues
to play in
and
NHL all the things you have to
leagues in
sacrifice and,
Sweden,
the work it takes.
it's not-
I just remember in
it's not crazy
Brazil,
hockey.
Going to the rink with him, going out after practice.
I don't really look
being with
too
him
much into
and
the
around all
highlights.
The other pros, so just
You got to look
know,
at their
going in the
impact
cold tub,
on
hot
the
tub at a
teams,
young
on the
age, trying
teams that
to,
they've been on.
dip my toes in the cold tub. Can't go in it at that age. It's just so cold, and just being around the pros and messing around with them was pretty cool.
All right, so Blake Fiddler right there, son of Vern Fiddler, who played almost 900 games in the National Hockey League. We saw him go in round number 2. Bloodlines, always a theme throughout day 2 of these drafts. You can see some of the notable father-son bloodlines to keep your eye on in this draft. And Sam, we're already 2 picks into round number 3 here. Kieran Dervin and Nathan Bain, 2 guys that I know you have your eye on. One going to Vancouver and the other one going to the Chicago Blackhawks.
So Dervin is a guy who started playing in Canadian college school called St. Andrews. And that's a school that just pumps out player after player. We saw Dean Letourneau come out of there last year. A number of others. Aiden Lane, we might see him at some point here today as well. And then at the end of the year, he ends up going to the Kingston Frontenacs. He gets into 10 games there, and they realize, all right, we can play at this level and make that transition. So fascinating guy for me when it comes to Dervin. Grew up playing in the Pittsburgh Junior Pens organization. He's committed to go to Penn State, and then we'll see how his path works. But I think another year in the OHL with Kingston would serve him well coming out of St. Andrews. The other guy is Nathan Bain. So fascinating guy, Nathan Bain, to me, when you look at him being a golfer since the age of 2 years old. And he won a long drive competition in Alberta last year, hit the ball 340 pounds, but his 66 points are nothing to sneeze at. Earlier in the year, when he was on a good points run, he started to gain some notoriety, move up a number of draft lists, and I think settled into a spot where he probably should be here early in round number 3. So I think this is a guy here who, maturity-wise, is someone that you're going to track his progression, a little bit more of a project guy, and of course his ability to put up points is something that's going to attract scouts for sure.
344 yards
on the drive.
Yeah.
He better have an NHL-ready shot with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
His slap shot must be wicked.
No, he can do that. He can shoot it. So that is definitely one element to his game. But it's kind of neat that you know, all hockey players play golf because you have the summers off. But for him to be that involved in a long drive at that age, that's pretty cool.
Rip it and rip it.
Scouts used to have summers off. I remember when I started this career, and now they got all these summer tournaments and development camps and showcases. It's
But you're a
year-round.
TV guy now. You're good.
No, I've just got to try and keep up to you on the golf course. It's unbelievable.
Oh,
you laying the screws to me all the time. It's unbelievable.
Is Sammy scratch? What's the golf game at right now?
Scratch.
That's the only scratch you got.
Scratch. He's full of it. He's trying to buy strokes.
He's the best dressed guy on the course, I'll tell you that.
Always best dressed guy in the set. Hey, I want to ask you, we talked Bloodlines while we wait on the LA Kings to make their selection here, and their time is up, so maybe a trade's coming. But Bloodlines, how much does that factor into scouting and just knowing the lineage of some of these players just based on their last names and dads having played in the National Hockey League? How much weight does that carry?
Oh, it's an extra layer of information. Absolutely. These kids have grown up and they've been around NHL dressing rooms, and if they've been lucky enough to, even take a game day skate or something, whatever that is, and they're around their heroes growing up, aren't they? They're a kid in a candy store, literally, and it's good value, absolutely. And then, of course, the dad, provided that he's in the right mind space, isn't too hard on the kid. And sometimes you turn into a hockey dad, not the pro NHL dad. We're all guilty of it. I was guilty of it with my boys playing baseball, and anyways, a story for another day. But what I'm saying is you can't take away from that. That's an experience that's they benefit from. It's great.
All right. Well, speaking of our golf games, nobody's golfed more at the Stanley Cup Final than E.J. Raddick. Putting in some work here, though, at the NHL Draft. He's with a very special guest, General Manager of the Detroit Red Wings, Steve Yzerman.
Steve, you made a big deal today. You end up getting John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks addressing a goaltending issue. How long have you been working on this one?
Well, Pat and I had some discussions last season, around the, if I recall, around the trade deadline. John was dealing with some injuries at that time, and so the timing of it didn't really work. And just following it, leading up to the draft, as we all do our off-season work, we've had some discussions, and as we get closer here, able to. So it's been in talks for a little while.
His name has come up for a bit in different particular places. He's been kind of liking the idea of staying in Anaheim. Did you have to convince him about coming to Detroit? And he is somebody from Pennsylvania, that area. It's not that far. Did you have to convince him to come to Detroit?
No, I just actually placed a call into John. I haven't talked to him yet, but no, there was no need to convince him. Our understanding was he was looking, they have an excellent young goaltender in Dostal, and John was looking for a fresh start and saw an opportunity in Detroit to get in the net and play a lot of games. So, I look forward to speaking with him, and I've been assured he's excited to come to Detroit, and we're excited to have him.
All right, so you get the goaltending situation kind of settled with a terrific player like Gibson. What other things are you working on as you move towards July 1st?
Well, we'll continue to explore the trade options.
Mm-hmm.
The free agency market at a lot of positions is pretty thin, but there are players that we would have some interest in if they're still free on July 1. So again, we've got some spots we'd like to upgrade on our roster, or open roster spots. We'll see if we can address it in free agency. I'm not that optimistic, to be honest with you, because there's more teams than there are players for what we're looking for. And we'll continue to see if we can't do something through trade. And once the draft settles down, and once maybe the initial July 1 free agency subsides, the rush there, and see what teams are looking to do after that.
All right, you drafted Carter Bear, number in your first round, or your first pick. Give me your thoughts on him. Why is he a good fit for the Detroit Red Wings?
Well, we think he's a very good prospect, EJ. He's smart, he's competitive, he's got good puck skills, plays hard. We like a lot of things about him. High character young man. So, we're all excited about the players that we get. But we think he's a really excellent young man. we really like the way he plays the game. So, you know, not only can he score at the junior level, he can score, but he plays hard too, and he plays in all situations. So we think he's a very good prospect, and we're excited to have him in our organization.
All right, Steve, thanks for the time. Congratulations on the acquisition of John Gibson today. Good luck the rest of the day at the draft.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, EJ.
All right, so the LA Kings were on the clock, but they made a trade, trading back and swapping picks with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Seattle has made their
Canes,
pick.
with that 67th pick, took
With the
Kerbin
fourth
Limatov,
pick in the third round,
a defenseman out of
pick
Dynamo
overall,
Moscow Jr. Mike Kelly, that is your guy.
Yeah, this is a really interesting prospect, Limatov. I think he's got a high upside. We were pretty high on him here, having him as a kind of early to mid second round guy. So to get him in that spot at 67 for Carolina, it's a win. 6'3", 200 pounds, physical, shutdown type of game. Really started to assert himself as the season went on in the NHL. One of the best defensemen in this draft is separating opponents from the puck, but like I said, he can lay the body as well. Above average skater for a guy his size. I think hockey sense is something that scouts are questioning a little bit, maybe why he fell a little bit, but I think there's potential here to be a second pair D, as Mason Lohrei, a guy who just signed a contract extension for the Bruins, comes up as our data comparable.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Seattle, Sam, taking Will Reynolds, a defenseman from the QMJHL for Acme Bathurst.
One of the younger guys here with that August birth date, but a guy who's raw, 6'3", 188 pounds, so clearly has some opportunity to fill his game out. You're not overly concerned about what the numbers are because he's a raw project type of player. You have to extend your window for having him arrive on the scene a little bit later than most. So you get a couple assists here in the postseason. He's in an interesting situation in that Bathurst will move to Newfoundland next year, and that is going to increase the travel, the hardness of what he has to go through. I do believe that adversity is going to be something that helps him out down the road, and so Will Reynolds is a guy that you're not looking at here for a couple of years to make an impact for your club because of the rawness.
One thing that I like about this kid is that Bathurst were kind of a middle of the pack type of a team. Like, they weren't a high-end team in the Quebec League. Will Reynolds played to a player type. Sometimes you find defensemen who are good skaters who are maybe going to be able to provide secondary offense. They try and do too much, and they don't do anything really, really well. He was a plus player on that team. Like, he's a good skater, makes a good first pass. He kind of plays to just a simple identity, and that was a good news story for him because he didn't stray. He stayed to his game.
All right, waiting on the Boston Bruins here, just over a minute to go for their pick here in round number 3. Of course, James Hagen's falling to them at number 7 in round number 1. Sammy, I think you stole James Hagen's suit, the exact suit from yesterday.
Yes.
Literally, that's exactly what he wore. So
he didn't need it today.
No, hey,
it's good.
He was done. Yeah, handed over, but looking sharp. And James Hagen, Bruins fans, just a lot of my family and friends back home couldn't believe that they ended up snagging him at number 7. That was a dream come true for them.
You know, it was a fascinating study. I mean, I love the player, and Books and I talked to him at the Combine, and he was almost apologetic. And I'm like, no, you're an unbelievable player here. Like, you play with your heads up. Your vision is great. You can shoot the puck. You were driving a line with 2 first-rounders on it. You're on the first power play. Over a point per game at the World Juniors. Set the record at the 18s, at the 17s. Like, there's not much more he could have done. But and for James, I think it just took a little bit of time for the realization that, hey, teams have a certain player they like. Some other players might have surpassed them in terms of production or how they played the game, or even that steady progression throughout the year. James Hagens was a great player at the start of the year. He's a great player at the end of the year. Absolutely. And Boston should be absolutely ecstatic with getting him at number 7.
You know, that's a great point by you. He's hard on himself, thinking that he let everybody down because everybody, probably all of us, expected him to potentially be number 1 this year and to fall to where he did. He feels he let people down. And I can tell you, James, you did not let anybody down as an American and followed your career so far up to this date. Yeah, I'm awful proud of how hard you've played and what you've done to get to this position. You'll be ready for the NHL, Ken.
Dynamic talent, fellas. Yeah. Dynamic talent.
Well, while we wait on James Hagen's new team, the Boston Bruins, to make their pick, we're going to take a quick commercial break here, covering the NHL draft. Day 2, rounds 2 through 7. We're back from LA in just a minute.
NHL Shop has the largest selection of authentic NHL fan gear for the playoffs. Shop now and get today's special offer.
One of the best fighters alive. Charles Oliveira! An absolute assassin. These two guaranteed forwards. International Fight Week's always big.
Toyota takes you there. Don't miss out. Get in and go at your local Toyota dealer today.
Do you need financing for your business? Get up to $800,000 in less than 24 hours from Merchant Growth. Apply online today and get your no-obligation quote. Trusted by over 10,000 businesses, Merchant Growth is Canada's leader for convenient business financing. Apply now at merchantgrowth.ca.
How do you become Consumer Guide's most awarded automotive brand? With Sentra, a Consumer Reports top pick, and Rogue, Motor Trend's #1 compact SUV 3 years in a row. This is Nissan Now. Hurry into your local Nissan dealer and finance select Rogue models for 0%.
There's one true
ESPN's
thing
never good
about
at covering
restaurants.
hockey.
You are never alone.
$306 people on the stream. Amazing. Drop a like and subscribe, guys. Keep the stream going. We're going to do free agency on Tuesday. I hope you guys all join. It's going to be wild free agency on Tuesday. It's going to be wild. I'm so excited for it.
The Bruins trading pick 69 to Montreal for 79 and 108. So Montreal on the clock, and here's the pick.
Montreal Canadiens have selected Hayden Papanekas from Kelowna of the Western
Hayden
Hockey League.
Papanekas.
All right, Sam Hayden. Papanekas, a center from Kelowna, the WHL. This kid exploded in his first 7 games.
Kloplar is not a bad
Hit
pick.
6 goals in those first 7 games.
Another big rig, 6'5", 202 pounds. This guy put up 43 points with the Kelowna Rockets this year.
At this point in the draft, you got to be really
opportunity
smart.
to play in the Memorial Cup next year. And I think when you look at his size, it's funny because Canadian Hockey League teams, even college teams, are watching what the NHL does, and they see the success that these bigger players have. You get a guy who can get into the corners, you can get a guy who can add a little bit of offense for you, can play with some bite to his game, and establish itself position in the net front. So the Montreal Canadiens clearly
Who's excited for free agency on Tuesday? I am. There's going to be some big names. Ehlers, Besser, Ekblad, Marchand.
Barnhill from Dubuque of the USHL.
All right, Boog, Sean Barnhill going to the New York Rangers here in round number 3. A defenseman from Dubuque in the USHL finished it within the top 10 in 5 different events at the NHL Draft Combine. This kid's an animal.
Yeah, his fitness was off the charts at the Combine, and you always like to see that clearly. His preparation is there. Right shot guy. I mean, you know, these guys, and if they have a little bit, oh, geez, I love to see that. Don't you guys love to see that a little bit also? 6'5", 214. I'm not, again, I don't need this kid to score. I need him to take away time and space. I need him to have that physical bite to strike a little bit of fear in the opponent. The fact that he's agile, no, that's a bonus. So again, bottom pairing defenseman here. I like this pick more than some of the other picks ahead of him for defenseman at this size. I think he's got great feet, to be honest with you. And you know, we'll see where this goes. But defensive zone, 2AD. I think he's leaning more matchup guy depth on projection. And again, another guy that kind of knows what he is. Compete though, Tony. He's got to compete in the edge. That's going to give him a big chance.
Just one thing that I've noticed out of all these big guys, 6'5", 6'6", 6'4", we're getting a lot of big players, and lots of the reports say good skater. Yeah. When you used to be 18 and you were 6'5", you were clumsy and you had trouble going. So the training, the development, and obviously being on the ice more. A lot of these kids are great skaters at 18, even though you're that big.
Boris Valabek got drafted to Atlanta several years ago, that big rig, and his skating just, I think he's 7th overall. Couldn't skate.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Buffalo Sabres on the clock. The pick is officially in. A very special pick coming up. For more on that, we send it down to the Deputy Commissioner, Bill Daly.
Before Buffalo makes their selection, please direct your attention to the screens and meet Greg Manzi from the Junior Sabres. Let's go to Buffalo.
He was excited. He was one of the best listeners. And this past season, he was playing for the Junior Sabres, and he had a really tragic accident during one of the games and became paralyzed. I've always been in contact with his dad, and then when it happened, I reached out to them and checked in and see how Greg was doing, and sending me updates. And then the Sabres had a really good idea to bring him in after a game, and a bunch of my teammates and I were able to just hang out with him and bring him into the gym and the locker room and show him around, and
Man,
just
that's
create a
horrible
special
to
experience
hear.
for
Kid had an injury
someone
during the
going through a
hockey
really hard
games,
time in their
paralyzed.
life. And everyone was coming up, giving him sticks, hanging out with him, chatting with him, asking how he was doing, how his progress was, and
Good
it was
on
an
Alex
unbelievable
Tuck.
night. I'm excited to give Greg a call today. We got a big surprise for him. What's up, Greg? How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. How's summer been so far?
Pretty good. I'm just still in Buffalo doing PT, rehabbing still, but
Nice.
slowly getting nice weather here.
We wanted to invite you down to the draft experience at One Bills Drive there. We would love it if you could announce the second round selection for us.
Wow, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Excited that you're able to do this. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it's a cool experience.
It'd be really cool. Get to hang out with like the insiders of the Sabres, like what they do throughout the draft process. So it'll be a really cool experience. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Thanks for all the support, and hey, keep it up, all right? And tell your dad I said hi as well.
Okay, appreciate it.
Good on the Buffalo Sabres. Awesome story.
Let's go to Buffalo now for the Sabres selection.
Excited to have Greg Mancy here from the Buffalo Junior Sabres to make our next selection.
With the 71st pick in the 2025 NHL Draft, the Buffalo Sabres are proud to select from Owen Sound, David Betkowski. Go Sabres.
So a pretty cool moment there by the Buffalo Sabres, letting Greg Mancy make the selection in round number 3. And Sam, it is David Betkowski, a defenseman from Owen Sound, who was traded to Owen Sound from Oshawa in October of 2024. Played only 2 games for Oshawa this season.
So you remember a guy by the name of Colby Barlow was a first-round pick of the Winnipeg Jets. He was the guy that went back in that trade. And when Dale DeGray, former NHLer, the general manager of the Owen Sound Attack, made that trade, Betkowski was the key piece that he wanted back. There were a number of picks and players, I want to say up to 11 of them, that went back the other way in that deal. So that's how highly Oshawa thought of Barlow, but that's also how highly the Owen Sound Attack thought of Betkowski. Now, he can get up on the play once in a while, but this is a guy here who I think, as a right shot guy, who's a big guy, is not going to be the big offensive guy. He does have that in his game, make no mistake about it, but he's going to be there to defend the net front. He's a guy that's going to give a lot of pushback. He plays with a mean, old school, nasty style, and that is a common theme we're seeing throughout these big guys, where they understand that bully hockey, which we saw the Florida Panthers play for the last 2 years, to lift the cup twice, is really in vogue right now, and it's in vogue at all levels of hockey. Betkowski proving to be that guy with Owen Sound right now.
Love his snarl. Absolutely love his snarl. Big right shot D that takes away time and space.
Anaheim
But
has made their
he's in the
selection.
grill of the opponent all the time. Protects his own. I love that.
In the third round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Anaheim Ducks have selected Noah Reid from London of the Ontario Hockey League.
All right, Anaheim selecting Noah Reid out of London with the 72nd overall.
Next
Pittsburgh on
selection
the
belongs to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
All right, Penguins now officially on the clock here at number 73.
I don't know, Joker. I don't know
Jason,
where
you
you
want to
can
put a bow
listen
on
to the
David
draft.
Betkowski and what maybe the Sabres are getting in a kid like that?
Yeah, they're getting a simpleton. Like, he's a guy that's going to be a bottom pairing guy. That's he makes a good, solid first pass. He gets up the ice fine, guys. There's no issues there. There's no issues whatsoever. To your point, Tony, like he's a big guy that skates really well on straight lines. Is his small area agility going to have to come a little bit? Absolutely, no problem. But you know what he does, like when you're big and you have the snarl that he has, you alleviate pressure internally because people don't come into your space as often. So if he can pounce on a puck, he's going to make the simple play. If it's there, it's fine. The compete's there, the body's there, and like I said, the pushback's there. But you know, it's a fast game. He's going to have to internally get a little bit quicker in small areas. He'll work at it.
We've had 18 players selected that are 6'5" or taller, just in round number 2.
It's an NBA draft.
Yeah. But is that, it's a copycat league, but we're seeing a lot of these Stanley Cup champions, right? They come to the playoffs, these defensemen, big, long, rangy.
Pittsburgh selection.
Physical, nasty, right? There's a theme there.
But for the smaller players, Marchand's not very big.
2025
There's quite a few players that aren't very big that can play that hard and tough.
Selected Charlton Trethewey from the National Team Development Program in the USHL.
All right, I love the name, Charlton. We'll go nickname with him. How about Charlie Trethewey, Tony? A defenseman from the NTDP. Led all Demon in points at the 2023 U17 World Hockey Challenge. He had 10 points in 7 games.
Yeah, he can move the puck. I guess he'd be an undersized defenseman. I think he's just about 6'2", but in the way he's fast going, he's all of a sudden an undersized defense. I like this kid a lot. He's got a big shot from up top at the U.S. team. He didn't play a ton of power play minutes, so his points aren't great. But he's a guy that can get the puck through, and he knows, again, back to that same thing. They put him in a slot that you're going to be a hard to play against defenseman, be smart, move the puck, play this way, and he did. So I think, falling down into 73, Pittsburgh did a really nice job.
Hey, you know what? The draftitis isn't an actual disease, but I kind of felt like he had a little bit of draftitis, and I put it on the scouting fraternity and the prognosticators who miscast him, to be honest with you, coming out of the summer. I think the expectation was he was going to push it a little bit more offensively, and what he is he's a two-way, hard-nosed guy. Really good skater, and he's a team guy, right? He shows up every night.
Great family. Grandpa's been around. He was at the U18. I talked to Grandpa more than anybody at the U18 tournament.
Awesome. Round of the 2025 NHL Draft.
Good for the kid.
The New York Islanders have selected Luca Romano from Kitchener, the Ontario Hockey League.
All right, Sammy. Luca Romano, a winger from Kitchener, the OHL, who tied for 7th among all draft-eligible OHL skaters and goals this year, 25.
Well, we've watched him quite a bit, and this is a fascinating guy. You talk about draftitis. I think there were some at points in the year where that was impacting him, where you're more worried about the draft than the process and getting through the draft. But one thing you'll notice with this guy, he darts, he can move in and out of space quickly. There's no question he can score goals. You see that release is really good. He's got vision to make plays. He's got escapability to his game. So from an offensive perspective, there is no doubt that he has the skill to be drafted here. The one part you'd like to see is a little bit more hardness. Not so much heavy. He's not going to play a heavy game, but just be a little bit harder to play against, be a little harder along the wall, behind the net when you're digging pucks out. From a skill perspective, though, I really like the pick.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a tenacity to his game, especially when he's killing penalties, where he creates a lot of chaos and turnovers. But I'd like to see it more impactful, like even strength consistently, because he's a bird. This kid can really score.
He can dart. He can get there.
So is this going to open up some more skilled guys? Are we going to see LJ here pretty soon?
Geez, I hope so, because he deserves to be here. Owen Griffin from the Oshawa Generals had a fantastic second half of the year. Cameron Schmidt from the Vancouver Giants had, I think, what do you have, 40 or 42 tucks this year? I mean, these are guys that there's a sleeper out here. I gotta throw his name out in case he comes out. Victor Klingsell from Sweden. I love Victor Klingsell. And this kid's got a chip on it. He's not here. I hope he's watching back home in Sweden, because he was a little aggravated that he wasn't coming to the draft for a variety of reasons. But keep an eye on that name. He's going to be a bulldog in the middle of this draft class.
Good call. I love that. And he was, again, we have the experience to get to the combine and interview a number of players, and his interview was absolutely fascinating. Detroit has made their selection. He's coming with some vigor.
The 11th pick in the 3rd round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Detroit Red Wings have selected Mikhail Pradl from Tri-City of the United States Hockey League.
All right, Books is a goalie. Yep. Out of Slovakia, the U18 team there tied for 2nd among all USHL rookie goalies and wins with 9 despite missing most of the season.
Lots of momentum on this kid in the back half of the season. I love his size. Look how wiry he is. You can see that. Again, he just needs to be coached up a little bit, but I do believe he's got NHL upside, guys. This isn't a guy that I think is a 3. I think he's a 2. And, athletic, long, lanky, sometimes over challenges moving forward out of his crease. So I'm not talking laterally, I'm talking pouncing moving forward, which gives him a little bit of a disadvantage. So these saves that you'll see because of his length, he's fine, but we're probably not going to have enough clips to see where he's outside the blue paint, out front of it, and he doesn't need to be. So he just needs a little bit of coaching. Super competitive. He gives his team a chance to win Slovakia, and nice pick. Nice pick.
Nice suit. I love the three-piece on the youngster.
I think he combined with some NHL teams, this kid, after the combine. Like, he went to some campuses, NHL campuses, so he was intriguing to a lot of teams.
They trade for a goalie and they draft a goalie, the Detroit Red Wings here today. So that's been an issue. I mean, you think about the goaltenders back in the day, and that was never an issue, right? And it's become an issue for Detroit the last couple of years. Went through a number of them last year. 5 or 6 goalies, I think, had at least one game there last year. John Gibson, if healthy, should help that out this year. Talbot had a good year, but I think they're just looking here to maybe buy some time for a Sebastian Cossa and maybe this guy here, 5-6 years down the road.
Nice to see Sean Horcoff back to his duties as an executive with the Red Wings after being
daddy
super dad yesterday. Yeah, it's great.
Can you believe how big his son is, though? He towered over the dad.
Yeah. But Mom, I saw her for the first time.
And she's tall too.
She's really tall.
Tall,
so
yeah.
You can see the size. Yeah, he's put together, that kid. Like, he could be a tight end in college football. Like, he's a big boy.
I killed it at the combine.
Yeah.
I mean, he set the horizontal jump.
Oh,
so let me ask you this: on the combine's results, is it more important the test results or the meetings with the teams, or is everybody already set? Like, what does the combines do for scouts and general managers?
So for me personally, I'm not a sports scientist, so when I go watch them at the combine, I learn a lot about how hard they compete in the tests. I don't care so much about the result. I care where they're going to go from A to Z. Okay, get it done. And then in the meetings themselves, let's be honest, some of these kids have never had a job interview before, and they come in front of us, a bunch of suits, and they're nervous about that. So you got to break them down, make them feel as comfortable as possible. If they identify what they are without being robotic, I'm all on with that. I'm all on board with that. But for the physical testing stuff, just work as hard as you can, kid. I don't care if you're hurling in the garbage can after you're done. It just tells me that you're not the strongest, but you're going to give everything you have. That's always my takeaway.
I take a lot from the combine, and it starts right away with the handshake, and we can continue that conversation forward.
All right, here we go.
Trade.
Detroit on the clock, but maybe not for long.
Well, then, trade to announce. The Detroit Red Wings have traded pick number 76 in the 2025 NHL Draft to the Columbus Blue Jackets for pick number 109 in the 2025 NHL Draft and Columbus's own 4th-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft. Columbus is now on the clock.
All right, so a trade between Detroit and Columbus. Columbus moving up to spot number 76, so they are officially on the clock. Detroit moves back to pick 109, as well as getting Columbus's 4th-round pick coming up in next year's draft.
Can I something just came to me. Sam Bennett couldn't do a pull-up at the combine.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Middlestad, I mean, there's been quite a few guys that have failed to pull themselves up to the bar, right?
No, he looks okay in the NHL. He's done all right, right? Sammy Bennett, Conn Smythe winner. Jeez.
But I look at it when someone walks into a room, do they shake your hand? Are they engaging other people in the room? Are they having conversation with you or just simply sitting there and going through the motions? Are they rehearsing the answers? Have they been coached up by the agent or by the parents or by their buddies? Have they been prepared? That tells me a lot simply about a person. Like, do you hold the door for somebody? Do you not? Do you acknowledge everybody in the room? Do you not? How are you treating your trainers, and how are you treating the support staff on your particular team? And then from there you go and you look at the exercise and sports science stuff. Is there something predictive you can find out about a person's body type or their skating that's going to impact their ability to improve those things moving forward? So I think about that a lot, but I also think about the character piece. That is hugely, hugely important to me. And I know I've walked out of a room before and I've said, there is not a way I would ever draft that player simply because of the 10 minutes I've spent with them. And so you like to think that all the work that you've done on the ice, you know what somebody is. That part to me is hugely, hugely important. And again, you leave the exercise and sports science stuff to the pros.
First impression's always a big impact. How about this? Columbus, Jason, hoping Malte Voss makes a big impact on their franchise. Defenseman from the Swedish junior team, or league, I should say, expected to attend Boston University coming up in 2025, 2026.
Interesting how many Swedes are coming over to play for some of these schools now. At the college level, it's truly a world campus for college hockey now, isn't it? 2AD, not a lot of flash and dash here. Again, he's super agile and mobile, which gives him a chance, again, to play to an identity. That right there, I like. He's got that bite to him. He gaps up. He kind of went out of his way, but he caught him by surprise, so I'll take it. His recoveries,
when I say he's a good skater, he gets to A, from A to B on a straight line very well.
What a hit.
There's like this little hiccup in his recovery stride, and I don't want to get to scout speak for everybody, our viewers. So there's a little room for growth there, is what I'm trying to tell you. But he's got length, he's got some bite, he's a 2A guy. Don't expect much offense.
A couple SHL games too, so I think that's a nice feather in the cap for a player who's kind of. Those Swedish players tend to bounce around a little bit, so that's a nice feather in the cap for sure.
With the 13th pick in the third round of the 2025 NHL Draft, the Colorado Avalanche have selected Francesco Deleche from UMass.
Francesco Deleche.
So the Avs going out and get defenseman Francesco Deleche out of UMass Amherst of the NCAA. Great story here. This kid passed over in the last 2 NHL drafts, so his moment finally comes. Good things come to those who wait sometimes, and he had to wait a little bit, but this is certainly the best day of his hockey life. Speaking of a big day, certainly a big day for Blake Fiddler, drafted by Seattle in round number 2. He's with our EJ Raddick. EJ.
Thanks, Jameson. Blake, exciting day. You remember the Seattle Kraken. What are the thoughts been going through your mind over the last, 24 hours? Because there was some thought maybe you'd go in the first round, so then you have to go sleep on it. How was it as you got ready for today?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier. It's an honor. I'm super thankful that they believe in me and that I'm finally drafted now by the Kraken. And yesterday was, you think that maybe you're going, but that's how it goes sometimes. And something me and my dad always say is, the draft doesn't really matter. He was undrafted.
That's right.
It doesn't matter when you go, but it's the work you put in after. So I'm just really excited to get going.
How was your dad? I mean, if hockey fans know your dad, Vern, he played in the league a long time. How is that relationship, and how has that helped you? I would sure it's helped you quite a bit because it gives you a little edge. He has insight, and you have insight into what it takes.
Yeah, he's helped me tremendously throughout my career so far. Just being able to go to him for whatever I need, really. He's a really good communicator, and he knows what it takes, and he's helped me learn what it takes to be an NHL player.
Well, Blake, you have, we were talking before he came on, because, your dad played in the NHL, you've moved around a little bit, right? And I said, have you been to Seattle? And you said, yeah, well, I played there last year. I mean, though you're in the Western Hockey League playing for Edmonton, so you're going to go there tomorrow. You'll have a little bit of a different look at Seattle tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I haven't been there since we played the Thunderbirds last year, so really excited.
Yeah. Did you have any idea that Seattle would be the team to take you? Did you have a couple of teams you thought they might be the one?
Not really. I talked to a lot of teams at the Combine, so it was kind of all up in the air.
Yeah. What's the plan now for the rest of the summer? I mean, it's an interesting time for you young guys because you're playing in the Western Hockey League. You're a dual citizen, but you play for Team USA. You have different options now. Is the plan just to kind of train and get ready for next season and let kind of things shake out?
Yeah, just trying to have a great summer, continue building, getting stronger, getting better at all parts of my game, and then plans to go back to Edmonton and kind of finish what we started there. We're going to have a good team next year and really want to win, so it'll be exciting.
How about World Juniors for Team USA?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I got a lot of work to do. I got to make that team, but went to the camp last year, and it was cool to get a little bit of taste of that.
All right, well, listen. Good luck the rest of the summer. Congratulations. You're a Seattle Kraken. Great to see it.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day, rest of the week. Good summer. We'll see you as things go on. J-Mo, back upstairs to you.
All right, Age, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Stephen Hawk going to the Utah Mammoth with pick 78. And the Boston Bruins, Tony just took Cooper Simpson with the pick after that. A winger out of Shakopee High School in Minnesota. Led all Minnesota high school skaters in goals this season with 49.
In 31 games. That's a lot of goals. So he stayed in high school all 4 years, but he did go to Tri-City at the end of both his junior and senior year. And when he got to Tri-City this year in the USHL, he had 7 goals in 9 games. So that goal scoring from high school translated into the USHL, and that's a big jump from high school hockey in Minnesota to the USHL and playing against the big boys. To be able to score at that pace through 9 games is important. He's going to go to North Dakota. Obviously a shooter. He knows his strength, and he doesn't pass up shots. If he's got a puck around the net, that thing is being delivered to the net. So good young player, as most young players, especially playing and coming from high school. When he had the puck, he could keep it half the game. Right. But playing without the puck and learning those skills away from the puck will be what his big adjustment is.
I always wonder, like from a scout's perspective, from a coach perspective, when you have that kid from Minnesota, and it so often happens where they're playing high school and then they go to the USHL, how do you feel about that playing two different levels in a year? Does it impact what you feel about the player or how you feel about it?
16th pick in the third round.
Yeah, I think if the kid can go into the USHL and show that he's got enough jam to be able to go to the battle areas and compete with those guys, because it's 20-pound difference in guys that are a heck of a lot bigger.
The game is totally different. The energy, the length of the game, all that stuff is totally different. So my preference, to answer your question, is that he challenges himself in the USHL either in the fall and at the end of the season. It goes back for, sometimes they play in the Super League or whatever early in Minnesota there. So there's a lot of moving parts. I will say that it's a big talking point.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's frequent.
Yeah, every year.
All right, Sammy, tell us what the Flames are getting in Maceo Phillips here. Sounds like another big boy, 6'6", 233, and led all NTDP skaters in PIMS this year.
Yeah, awesome. So really interesting backstory about this guy. A gift from God, that's what Maceo means. And so being named that, I think you get an idea of what his family means to him, especially his mom, Amy, was a soccer player and a gymnast, so there's some athleticism there. But this guy comes from some humble beginnings, put up 103 penalty minutes this year. And again, like this theme, we can't go over it enough. But this guy is an athlete through and through. In terms of playing in the front end of your lineup, that's not something I would project from Maceo Phillips, but I like the backstory. I know he's been through some adversity in his younger years. That always seems to serve players well. In Calgary, they could use a little size on the back end, and I think this is a good pick here for a guy who could play that mean, physical, nasty game.
All right, Books, how about the Habs just taking Bryce Pickford here, a defenseman out of Medicine Hat. Pickford's 13 playoff goals. That's the most by defenseman in WHL modern history.
Sammy is giving me the tap because in our little pregame copy meeting here, I had this kid highlighted. So he's 19 years old. They don't all mature at the same timeline, right? And what a great year Bryce Pickford had. He's a big part of the reason why the Medicine Hat Tigers made it to the Memorial Cup. Fellas, all situations plus 57, 58 this year. Plus 58, pretty good. When you're logging 25 plus minutes a night and you got, plus 58. So he's got the offense. He got really aggressive, or more aggressive, definitely in the second half of the season. He started scoring a lot more goals.
Leafs are coming up at 86.
His competes off the charts. He took him a little longer to develop. He's still going to need some time, but healthy pick here for the Habs.
What I have to say about that is, like, okay, he's been through it the draft before, and as scouts, you're not giving up on the year, right? So you're watching him in the playoffs, you're watching him in the Memorial Cup, and there's enough there to say in high leverage situations, that you can say to yourself, oh wow, this guy is actually worth it. We're not just going to cast him aside because he's an older player. I love that, and I love that for your fraternity that they continue watching right through the end.
You hit it right on the head, though. It's the high leverage. Like when you've gone through a draft and you start to spike offensively in a category, I need to see results in high leverage. That's why I referenced the plus minus. It's not an exact statistic, but he's on the ice for key situations in the game and high leverage competition. That matters a lot.
For sure.
All right, Montreal going back-to-back. So they take Pickford at 81. They take a goaltender, Arseny Radkov, at number 82. The Oilers just made
Thanks
their
for
selection.
joining, Kelly.
Tommy Lafreniere.
Hopefully we'll see you during free agency.
Center out of Kamloops in the WHL.
Yeah, so again, this one here is a little bit of an under-the-radar guy, but super
birthday
skilled,
tequila.
like super skilled.
Birthday drinks for sure tonight.
Pittsburgh Kamloops was rebuilding this year, right? They were just okay. Kamloops was coming through a situation where he's not the biggest guy. Yeah, he plays not so much of a light game. He's an in-and-out guy with skill. In and out with skill, quick strike skill. He finds pucks in people's feet and traffic. And
cheers.
I think he's going to have a chance. He's a playmaker on the power play. I think, I'm doing this off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me. I think he had 14 tucks on the power play. So it's somewhere in that range. Good pick. Let's roll the dice here. You got that skill attribute, and he can add weight and round out the rest of his game.
Coming up at 86.
Oh, that's pretty good. He's fired. The Penguins going with a goaltender here, and Gabriel Daig out of Victoriaville, a goaltender. I love this. Trained with Marc-Andre Fleury in 2022. They're from the same hometown. Flower gave Daig his number and said, "Reach out anytime, kid."
And that kid has taken advantage of that. What a mentor to get the digits from in the future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, so big goalie again, active, fellas, really active. The one thing I would say is that when I say in a scouting report that he sits tall in his butterfly to take advantage of his size advantage, there's some goalies, when they're big, they lean back on the back of their skates and they lose that tallness, and when they're down the butterfly, he sits tall in his butterfly, it's good. But when you're seeing some of the highlights here, how active he is with his feet, there are times that he gets moving around a little bit too much. You know, you think Marc-Andre Fleury, he's made a living of being active, right? But just kid, again, got to coach him up. Can't teach size, can't teach compete, can't teach athleticism. He's got that in spades. It's just going to take some time.
Not a bad guy to
a little goaltending tip besides that being tall when you're on in your butterfly. Patty Waugh taught me this, and I was amazed at this. We were just around the net at one practice, and I'm just chatting with Patty, and he was in the talking mood, so he's get down on his knees and he goes shoot some pucks at me. So I had some pucks right in front of him, and he said, I want you to go top shelf. And you're scared as a coach, you don't want to hit him in the neck or hit him in the mask. He said, no, go up top. And all he did, I saw net. Yeah, all he did was lean his shoulder forward like this, and there was no net anymore. But I see the net, but because of that angle with the forwards going,
they're just closing it down.
Just closing it down, and that was one thing I learned from goaltending that I never would have figured out on my own. But Patty Waugh being Patty Waugh, wanted to teach his coach something. Story. That's so great. Like for people who have young goaltenders out there, what he's doing is he's using his body to block. Where goaltenders for a time they use only athleticism, so they go down their butterfly and it's all about catching the puck, like that highlight catch. But now a lot of guys do it. Roberto Luongo, towards the end of his career when I was in Florida, so he was really proficient at that. Square up around the post, front it like this, sit tall, use your chest and your shoulders. That's a great point right there.
Love it. Giving out trade secrets for the goalie union.
Yeah, why not?
Appreciate that, right? Yeah.
Flowers giving out his phone number for crying out loud.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
Why
86.
not?
Let's
well,
go
these
make
kids
the
hopefully
leads.
hearing their names called pretty soon. We're going to take a timeout. Pittsburgh back on the clock, back-to-back picks here. Their time winding down, so maybe a trade percolating. We'll find out when we come back.
Introducing the first
The draft finishes today. They do rounds 2 to 7 today, and then the draft is done. So it's from noon to 3:30 today, I believe.
Set up your free account today and add to your collection.
We're currently in round 3, and there's 7 rounds in the draft.
Toyota takes you there. Don't miss out. Get in and go at your local Toyota dealer today.
Your spending changes month to month to month. So, the new CIBC Adaptive MasterCard automatically adapts month to month to month, earning you more points where you spend the most. Introducing CIBC Adaptive MasterCard.
Oh yeah, you're looking at one of the newest reasons to love Red Lobster. New seafood boils, turning Crab Fest into a crab feast. That's the look of real happiness. Served daily only at Red Lobster.
Hey, it's your gut instinct. Always one step ahead. I know what's up and who's up. So next time the game's on and it feels game-changing, bet your way with Betway.
The Leafs are on the clock.
I'm a hot sleeper. First I kick the covers off, then the pillows.
Then me.
A cooling mattress can help. Let's find you the perfect one.
Hey Canada, stay cool this summer. Get 25% off almost everything during the Sleep Cool event at Sleep Country.
Balderson has been masterfully aging our delicious cheese with the same time and care for over 140 years. So we wondered if anything else from back then had aged as well as us. It turns out that nothing ages as well as Balderson's Canadian craftsmanship.
With Prime Day coming July 8th through the 11th, greatness is a deal away.
I appreciate the likes and subscribe, guys. Keep the streams going, keep us going.
Shop deals from kitchen to electronics.
I really appreciate it.
Day.
Bud Light, for a clean, crisp taste that's easy to enjoy.
It's still shrinking!
Need to add more softness.
The color needs to be vibrant.
And the fit needs to be just right. It's perfect! No bacon collar!
Fit around the arms and chest and loose around the belly.
No more shrinking and no more fading.
Gentlemen, we did it. The perfect t-shirt for men.
Welcome back to the 2025 Upper Deck NHL Draft, rounds 2 through 7 here from the beautiful Peacock Theater in Los Angeles. While you're away, another trade. It was the Penguins who were on the clock. They traded their selection to Vegas. Vegas making their pick. We'll tell you about that in just a second. Listen into this one.
2025 NHL Draft. The Toronto Maple Leafs select Tyler Hopkins from Kingston.
All right, Tyler Hopkins selected by the Toronto Maple Leafs. But, Jason, I want to go back to Matteo Nobert. The Vegas Golden Knights trading up to select this youngster, a centerman out of Blainville-Boisbriand in the Q.
Equal parts shooter, distributor. I call him a power play specialist, guys. So it reminds me a little bit of like a Jonathan Marchessault type of a player coming out of the Quebec Major Junior League here. Great statisticals, or great stats, pardon me, as I trip over myself there. Well over a point a game, and you know, he's not a heavy player by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got quickness and spurts, and he's an opportunist, I guess, is what I would say. And you know, that speaks to his hockey sense, right? He takes advantage of his opportunities and produces.
Power play specialist.
You're in that area of the draft. You're taking some risk, and offensive upside's a good risk.
NHL Draft from Dynamo, St. Petersburg, junior hockey.
Look at those unis, the Christmas uni.
Right. Tis the season.
Great.
All right, Sammy, let's talk Tyler Hopkins here at number 86, a center from Kingston, out of the OHL. Huge fan of country music. Morgan Wallen, favorite guy. If you could have dinner with anybody, though, Snoop Doggy Dogg for shizzle.
Well, put on that jersey, call the Snoop Dogg. He's probably in town. Maybe you could have a little dinner with the Snoop Dogg. But you know, you talk about dreams becoming a reality. Who's his favorite team growing up? The Toronto Maple Leafs. How cool is this for Tyler Hopkins? He's a first-round OHL pick. He's a skilled guy. He's best of friends with Matthew Schaefer, so I'm sure Schaefer will be all over this pick in congratulating him on that. 51 points here with the Kingston Frontenacs this year. This is a guy who's got quick release.
24th pick.
I think he's more kind of a middle guy than he is a top-line guy. But a guy who can find a way to get there. He can still produce the offense that you need. Will probably score more in junior than he would in terms of pace-wise at the next level.
Good pick for the Leafs. Let's go.
Okay, Carolina's selecting Roman Bosov, a defenseman from Dynamo St. Petersburg of the MHL. Had a strong offensive start this year, 5 points in 7 games. Mike Kelly, the LA Kings like Christian Epperson.
As do I, JMO, as do I. I think this is a good value pick here. Coming off a breakout year in the OHL. He's an overager, was locked into a bit of a checking role with the national team development program, and I don't think he had a chance to hit his potential.
Guys, it's 2:15. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get off the stream or end the stream at 2:30. It's my birthday today, and the festivities are going to start kicking off. So I appreciate everyone tuning into the draft stream, and unfortunately, I got to get going. It's my birthday today.
Great hockey nickname too, Crispy they call him.
Be sure to join for NHL free agency on Tuesday.
The Magnitogorsk, the Russian Junior League.
Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate it, man.
Selected 89th overall by
44
the New York
years young.
Rangers.
I'm Morgan Riley
defenseman
today.
Out of Magnitogorsk Junior, the MHL. Jason, we certainly know that last name. Uncle Sergey played 1,301 NHL games with 6 different teams.
Two-way transitional defenseman, sneaky, really sneaky with the puck. You know, power play quarterback.
Andre, thank you. I appreciate it.
Doesn't bleed a lot of offense.
You guys are awesome,
he's
man. Thanks.
He handles it and he moves. He's laterally, he can walk the line and open up lanes to make some plays. I think he's a depth defenseman at the NHL organizational level. Let's see how it goes. He's going to have to clean up some defensive deficiencies. It'll take some time.
The New Jersey Devils select Mason Moe from Madison of the
Mason
USHL.
Mo.
All right, Tony Mason Mo, centerman out of Madison of the USHL, scored 5 goals in 6 games for Madison during the 2025 USHL postseason. So, clutch performer when it comes to crunch time.
Yeah, he's got high-end speed. He's good from the circles in. He's a guy that has got a very powerful skating base. He's going to go to the University of Wisconsin and play for Bobby Motzko, next year's U.S. World Junior coach. So, Andy Brandt, you know, he's had 2 guys out regularly.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
And Mason Mo. And he said both these kids is to have the coaches 18 years old and know they have a chance to play pro. But the thing about them having a chance to play pro, they think the game like pro. So Mason Mo's going to have himself a good opportunity.
Unfortunately, I can't leave the stream up and
Hopefully
running.
he does well for the New Jersey Devils.
I got to shut everything down before I leave the house.
Selection here, round number 3 for the New Jersey Devils. The Pittsburgh Penguins back in the clock. Pittsburgh's had a couple of selections here in round number 3. Any kind of themes shaping up in your opinion here in round number 3 so far?
Wow, crazy. Like the smaller skilled guys. I think you're at the point in the draft now where you definitely can take a chance on those guys like Cameron Schmidt, the way he gets up and down the ice, the way he shoots pucks. Mooney, you've watched him a lot more than I have, so too have you, Tony. But my goodness, is he a dynamic, creative, offensive player? Like, and with pedigree too. That's the other thing. You talked about bloodlines before. I mean, this guy has pedigree as well. So it is fascinating to me. But what it does tell me is that this truly is a copycat league. When you see the way the playoffs are contested, when you see how smaller guys, especially on defense, when you talk about the grand scheme and the 7 deep, selection, not many guys 6 foot or under. So that proves to be true. Having said that, you don't know what's in here sometimes, and I think some of these smaller guys deserve the opportunity because of how smart they are and just how skilled they are.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. The skill is there. Take the
Thanks,
chance.
Neil. I really
right,
appreciate it, man.
It's a copycat league, but we're in the 3rd, 4th round of the draft here.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is where you got to take that risk, in my opinion.
All right, Tony, what kind of risk did maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins take in a kid like Brady Peddle?
Oh, it's a kid that I like. I've watched quite a bit as he's with Waterloo in the USHL. He's one of those guys that's just steady, moves the puck. He doesn't try to do anything too fancy, but he did come up with 3 assists in the last game of the year as they got eliminated in the USHL finals against Muskegon. So he's a guy that can step up and surprise some people offensively, but he's got an edge to his game, and he plays hard as the...
He was born in Antigonish.
Brad.
Just like
Grit,
his dad. So you know
Grinder, Nova Scotia.
And his dad's been a coach in youth sports hockey for a long time at the collegiate level in Toronto. He had a brother, Ty, that went in the draft a couple of years ago. So you know you're going to get work ethic out of those Maritime kids, no question.
28th in the 3rd round, the Winnipeg Jets have selected Owen Martin from Spokane of the Western Hockey League.
All right, Owen Martin, a centerman out of Spokane of the WHL, going to the Winnipeg Jets. We'll pick 92 in round number 3.
Winnipeg
Martin,
Jets,
a very
Owen
strong
Martin.
finish to the 2024-25 campaign with 21 points in his final 18 games played. He had 8 goals.
That's a lot of centers
21
in this
points.
draft.
You can see the highlights of him right here. Owen Martin, get it done. 6 foot, 185, going to the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, it's a Spokane team that I think is on the rise. Brad Lauer, former pro coach, is over there now. I saw him in the lobby the other day. They like what their team is going to be bringing to the table next year. The Winnipeg Jets stay in the Western Hockey League, if you will, and so interesting to see where Martin goes here. But I like the program that Spokane has. They have a very pro setup there, and they've produced guys. We saw Berkeley Cat come out of there last year, and I think we'll see a couple more guys coming up next year as well.
So talk about inside information. Brad Lauer was most recently an assistant coach with the Winnipeg Jets.
There you go.
Connect the dots. We were talking about themes and while we wait on the Washington Capitals to make their selection here as time winds down in round number 3. The Carolina Hurricanes, certainly there's a theme trending in that direction. 10 Russians selected in the last 2 drafts. So is this Carolina maybe, you know, we talk about some high risk or low risk, high reward type scenarios with the way the geopolitical events are going in the world right now. You don't get a real chance to maybe see these kids as well as you used to in the past, that you never know what you're going to get, maybe a diamond in the rough that nobody else knows about?
They have a number of guys that lean to the analytics side, that lean to the video side on their scouting staff, and so I think they do a really good job in that department. I always believe that it's nice to have boots on the ground, and surely they do have some of that as well, but when you get to a certain point in the draft and you have 1 million picks, what you're doing is literally just shooting more darts at the dartboard. How many of those guys ever get signed? How many of those guys ever come over? I mean, I'd love to go back and look at the history of all that. But having said that, if you feel really confident about
4
a guy
more
in
picks
the
in the
program
third
he's coming
round,
from,
and then
you do have some
unfortunately
boots
you
on the
got to
ground,
end the
and
stream.
the analytics measure up, and the skill
Start up
part
the birthday
measures up,
festivities.
then why not take a chance? Because
We're getting drunk tonight.
when you get to this part in the draft, it's really difficult to find players who are going to be National Hockey League players. Now, Books might disagree with me a little bit, but his pedigree...
I'm seething over here.
Yeah, I know. And his pedigree is with drafting guys late, that you can stay in a situation where you have boots on the ground, surely, and feel much better about that player.
It's too many. It's too many. You have a real challenge when you draft Russian players to manage their development path. It's a real challenge. And when you get into these types of numbers, 10 or whatever it is right now, in the depth chart scheme of things, it's too many. And yeah, some of them might hit. Most of them aren't going to hit, and you're not going to have a heck of a lot of control over that process. And that's a humongous concern for me, especially when I see all these other names that are on the board here. It's definitely analytics driven, and I love analytics to a point. The problem with analytics, guys, is when you watch an NHL hockey game on TV, what does the camera follow? It follows the puck. You don't see everything. I don't see the kid warm up. I don't see the goaltender warm up and start the game on time. The centerman who's got to win the first draw, how he's interacting with his teammates. The coach gives him a little bit of a scolding. How does he react? All these things. So analytics takes you, to the pond, but it doesn't allow you to drink the water. So it's too many as far as I'm concerned.
All right. The guy I don't see right now as we look at the stage are E.J. Rannick. That's because he's backstage inside the draft house with the GM who had maybe the easiest job on day number 1, taking Matthew Schaefer. It's Matthew Darsh, GM of the Islanders.
Matthew Darsh, maybe the busiest man over the last month in the National Hockey League. Congratulations on the job with the Islanders, and you've gotten right to work. You made a big trade yesterday. You had the first overall pick. I'll start with the trade. How did that come together to move Dobson out and bring those picks back?
Well, we
Thanks, Phibbs.
We went through this.
I appreciate it, man.
Hoping to re-sign the player, and we couldn't agree on a contract, which happens in sports. It was all good, and we had good discussions with his team, and we decided to get the best we can by moving Noah, and we're really excited with the picks that we got yesterday, and the players that actually fell to those picks. So we're excited to have them on board.
And you had the first overall pick in the draft. You drafted Matthew Schaefer. He is such a unique person, aside from being a terrific talent. As you jumped into that job and you're talking to your scouts and you're focused on this draft, I mean, what was it to you? Was there one thing, or was it just the total package that he brings to the table?
I think it's a total package, because on top of being an outstanding player, because he's an elite defenseman that can skate, play both ways, and on top of it, he's probably as an outstanding individual as he can be a player, which is when you spend time with him, it's his maturity level for a 17-year-old is off the charts. So we're really excited to have him on board. Like hopefully he'll be an Islander for many, many years to come.
I want to ask you about those other 2 picks that you made, because you ended up with a couple of really good players. But I do have to ask about the situation there in terms of James Hagens, a local guy, a very high-end prospect. There was
Calgary
a lot of talk you were trying to maybe move up to get him.
Won't have another pick until the 4th round.
Point,
so
do you think, to maybe making that happen?
Unfortunately, you gotta go online on NHL.com and follow the 4th round and see where they pick.
You look at every opportunity during the draft, and we look, but there's a reason the team drafted him, because he's a very good player. So they're not just going to, because he's from Long Island, we'll let you draft him if we like him, because he's a good player. So
I don't think even Calgary has a pick in the 4th round.
Yeah, we like the player, and Boston got a real good prospect.
Calgary doesn't even have a pick in the 4th round. I don't know, you might have to wait till the 5th round.
You got Eklund at 16 and Aitchison at 17. I mean, I don't think you could be really happier at that. I mean, you got a really good, skilled forward and a tough, nasty defenseman.
For sure, and the main thing with both of them is they compete. Their
All right, guys.
level is off the chart also.
That concludes the stream for today.
Eklund might not be the biggest guy.
It's time to start the birthday festivities. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate all the likes and subscribes. We'll see you guys Tuesday for free agency. Have a good week.